Chapter 261. Wu Ming walked out of the hole in the wall that was created when he hit Bazette. After coming out, Wu Ming saw Ilya and Little Black who had transformed. One was squatting on the ground looking at Bazette, and the other was looking around vigilantly with Mayu who had also transformed. After all, they didn't know if there were other enemies around. Bazette was lying on the cracked and sunken ground, constantly struggling to stand up. Wu Ming said whether he could survive or not just to scare Bazette. Wu Ming controlled his strength very well. He just broke Bazette's spine and other parts of Bazette's arm and leg bones, but he didn't kill Bazette. That caused Bazette to be unable to move normally. However, Bazette was worthy of being called a monster by Rin Enbin. Most of his bones and spine were broken, but Bazette was still able to stand up. I really have some doubts about whether you are a human, Bazette. Wu Ming looked at Bazette with admiration. No matter what, such an opponent should be respected. Ilya, Mayu and Little Black took 2 steps back and looked at the magician who didn't look like a human. Since you now know that I am on their side, then do you still want to seize all the cards? Wu Ming wasn't in a hurry to deal with Bazette. Instead, he talked to him. The higher-ups didn't expect that there would be a servant to stop them. The mission has changed. I need to ask the higher-ups for instructions. Although his bones were broken, Bazette seemed to have used some special method to block the pain. Although his body was a little embarrassed, Bazette didn't seem to feel any pain. He was very calm and talked to Wu Ming. You don't need to ask the higher-ups. I will go directly to them. You can stay here. After that, Wu Ming activated Heaven Lock. Golden spatial ripples appeared around Bazette, and suddenly, golden chains appeared out of nowhere and bound him. The chain that connects the sky and earth of Mesopotamia? Bazette seemed to recognize the chain and gave up struggling. Even if she struggled, she wouldn't be able to break free. What's going on, big brother? Ilya asked, somewhat at a loss. That's right. Don't keep us in the dark. Blackie agreed. Wu Ming's big hands instantly pressed Ilya's and Blackie's heads and rubbed them vigorously. You still have class tomorrow. This is your punishment. Hurry up and go back to sleep. Sob, Little Black and Ilya sobbed. Wu Ming let go of Blackie and Ilya, and the two began to complain. Really, big brother is so rude. Ilya rubbed her hair that was messed up by Wu Ming with a red face and complained while looking at Wu Ming. Also, why is Mayu fine? Blackie's face was also red as he pointed at Mayu, who was standing beside Wu Ming. Me? The little companions who were implicated looked at the two in a daze. Yes, that's right. Mayu also needs to be punished. Then let us punish her. Then Ilya and Blackie looked at Mayu with an evil expression and walked toward her step by step. Wait a moment. Wu Ming took 2 steps back in a panic. Bang. 2 knocks sounded. Wu Ming put away the hand that he used to hit Ilya and Blackie, looked at the 2 little Lolas who were hugging their heads, and said, Mayu is much more self-disciplined than the 2 of you. Mayu is such an obedient little sister, so how can I punish her? Only disobedient little sisters can be used to tease. Cough, educate. Sob, big brother is bullying. Ilya looked at Wu Ming with tears in her eyes. Yes, big brother is bullying. Blackie also learned from Ilya. The 2 of you. Wu Ming shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Then he used his finger that was infused with magic power to poke their foreheads. It doesn't hurt anymore. Ilya touched her forehead and looked at Wu Ming with amazement. It's just a little trick. Hurry up and go back. Ling and Livia are fine. I will tell you what happened tomorrow. Also, when you came out, you must not have explained to Sela and the others clearly. She must be worried about the 2 of you now. Wu Ming reminded. Not good, Blackie, let's go back quickly. Ilya pulled Blackie's hand and hurriedly ran back. Don't pull me, Ilya. At this moment, Rin and Osaka, Livia and Livia's butler, August, who had already recovered, walked out of the house. Sister Rin, Sister Livia, Grandpa August, are you okay? Seeing the few people who were in a sorry state, Mayu ran over and asked worriedly. Although she knew that her brother Wu Ming said that they were fine, Mayu still couldn't help but worry. We are already fine. Thanks to the Lune Stone provided by Wu Ming, the effect was unexpectedly good. Rin and Osaka said and moved his arm to show that he was now very healthy. After all, their sorry state was only because their clothes were dirty in the battle. The injuries caused by the battle had already healed. Thank you for your concern, Mayu. We are fine. Now, we need to pay attention to the problem of how to deal with this. Livia finished speaking and looked at Bazette, who was tied up by Wu Ming's heaven lock. Bazette closed his eyes and looked like he was waiting to be slaughtered. At this moment, Wu Ming expressed his opinion. Regarding this matter, I will personally go to the clock tower to deal with it. Bazette will stay in the Shoyu residence. However, not only Rin and Osaka and Livia, but even August and Mayu could sense that when Wu Ming said that he would personally deal with it, his eyes became very scary. However, it was also very reliable. Having a reliable partner is really reassuring. Then, I will leave it to you, Wu Ming. Rin and Osaka and Livia looked at each other and smiled. Right, how are you going to sleep tonight? Although the house hasn't completely collapsed, part of the house has been destroyed. How about staying in the Shoyu residence temporarily? Wu Ming suggested. August, go and check the damage of the villa. If it really can't be done, we will go to Wu Ming and Mayo's house. Livia ordered her butler. Yes, Mississippi. With that, the strong old man strode toward the back of the villa and began to check the situation of the villa. At this moment, Wu Ming walked toward Bazette. Wu Ming, are you going to do something to Bazette? Rin and Osaka asked curiously when he saw Wu Ming's actions. Yes, I have basically broken all of Bazette's bones. If I don't fix it now, it might leave some hidden injuries in the future. With that, lines of Lune runes representing repair, life, and heal appeared in Wu Ming's hand and wrapped around Bazette's body. Bazette looked deeply at Wu Ming and didn't say anything. Then Rin and Osaka asked, by the way, should we postpone the matter of the 9th rank card? Chapter 262. When Rin Enbin brought up this topic, Mayo's expression suddenly changed. Wu Ming naturally noticed it. Let's talk about this tomorrow. It's already late. Everyone should go back and rest. Then, without waiting for Rin Enbin and Livia to react, Wu Ming opened the teleportation door and left with Mayu and Bazette. Where Wu Ming left, a stone engraved with mysterious runes was left there. The stone glowed, and Wu Ming's voice came from the sky. When you decide to live here, inject magic into this rune stone, and it will open the teleportation door. Mayu and I will go back first. The voice disappeared, and only the runes on the stone glowed. Rin Enbin and Livia looked at each other, and both of them saw the clues in each other's eyes. Seems like Wu Ming and Mayu have some secret that they don't want us to know. And it's a secret that has a lot to do with rank cards. However, the two's conversation ended there. Then Rin Enbin picked up the rune stone. After this crisis, Wu Ming's relationship with Rin Enbin and Livia improved. Since they obviously didn't want them to know, then there was no need to ask. When the time came, Wu Ming would definitely tell them. Just like Rin Enbin and Livia, they usually looked like they were fighting to the death, but when the time came, the two of them could cooperate very well. This was the bond that existed even in the dark magician world. Shoasuki Mansion. Wu Ming walked out of the teleportation door with Mayu, who was no longer in her transformed state. As for Bazette, she was already thrown into the Shoasuki Mansion by Wu Ming using the teleportation door. Wu Ming believed that Bazette wouldn't run away. It should be said that she was trapped in Wu Ming's magic workshop and couldn't escape. Brother Wu Ming. Mayu timidly called out to Wu Ming. Are you thinking about the 9th rank card? Wu Ming squatted down and looked at Mayu. Wu Ming once told Mayu that she became a rank card and followed Wu Ming from another world. However, even if that was the case, there should only be 8 rank cards and the 9th one shouldn't exist. Brother Wu Ming, could it be? Wu Ming looked at Wu Ming worriedly. Wu Ming naturally understood Mayo's meaning. Mayu was worried that the Ainsworth family chased her to this world. Although Mayu was once called the Holy Grail by the Ainsworth family, and Mayu was also the center of the Holy Grail War, but because of the protection of Wu Ming and Shiro Amiya, Mayu didn't suffer too much harm, so Mayu didn't show a particularly scared look. Because Brother Wu Ming is by my side, as long as Brother Wu Ming is by my side, I have infinite motivation. Mayu had always relied on this idea to fight. It's okay, Mayu. Wu Ming touched Mayo's head. I will personally retrieve the rank card, and I will do it with all my strength. After all, he didn't know whether this rank card was Ainsworth's bait, but if he didn't retrieve it, it would cause harm to the ley line, so Wuming decided to retrieve the card in a safe manner. I want to go with Brother Wuming. Meiyu looked at Wuming with particular determination. I now have the power to fight. Although I am very happy to accept Brother Wuming's protection, if possible, I want to fight with Brother Wuming. Wuming, who had long guessed that Meiyu would say this, smiled with some relief. It's good that you have such thoughts, but you have to know one thing, Meiyu. If this is a conspiracy of the Ainsworth family, then they will definitely play tricks after we enter the mirror world. As their target, you are the first person to bear the brunt of their protection. This is why I want you to retrieve the card with me. Moreover, if I encounter any traps or accidents in the mirror world, you and Ilya can still support me outside. If we are all turtles in a jar, then everything is over. Wuming persuaded Meiyu earnestly. But shouldn't Brother Wuming, the strongest one, be the trump card? Meiyu was still a little worried about Wuming. However, Wuming shook his head. It's because I'm the strongest, so if it's a conspiracy of the Ainsworth family, it's better for me to deal with it than for you to deal with it. For the time being, let's not talk about the conspiracy of the Ainsworth family. Except for me. I'm afraid that all of you can't defeat the servant who has absorbed the magic power of the ley line for a month. I know, Brother Wuming. Looking at Meiyu, who was a little unwilling, but still nodded, Wuming smiled. Well, I know you are worried about me, but the role you play outside is also very important. Wuming rubbed Meiyu's hair and comforted her. I know, Brother Wuming, don't rub it anymore. My hair is going to become a chicken's nest. Meiyu protested. Looking at Meiyu, who had returned to her original state, Wuming nodded. Then, Wuming hugged Meiyu and put his forehead close to Meiyu. I will let you live a peaceful life. I swear by myself. Wuming said quite calmly. Well, I believe in you, Brother Wuming. The stars in the sky shone on the brother and sister for a long time. The next morning, Meiyu went to Ilya's house and went to school with Ilya. Rintasaka and Livia took half a day off and discussed with Wuming. After Wuming's inspection yesterday, although Livia's villa didn't collapse, there were no more bedrooms or guest rooms that could be used. Therefore, after Wuming coaxed Meiyu to sleep, Livia and the others went to the Shoasuke residence through the teleportation door left by Wuming. In the living room of the Shoasuke residence, Wuming, Rintasaka, and Livia were sitting around a table. On the table was the parchment map that Rintasaka had used to detect the ley lines. The mirror world is deep underground. This is a bit troublesome, Livia said. Because it was underground, the mirror world must also be underground. In other words, the mirror world was full of soil, and in order to enter the mirror world, one must be in the corresponding position. In other words, if Wuming wanted to enter the mirror world, he must open up a sufficient space in the underground mirror world. I want to directly dig down and then enter the mirror world to retrieve the rank cards. Wuming waved his hand and said casually, Stop your weird thoughts. If you do that, the mirror world will only be a space filled with soil. Rintasaka said irritably. First, you have to dig a tunnel, and then open up an underground space at the target location. Rintasaka then rubbed his chin and analyzed. Then I'll call it Livia Salinta Eiderfelt. Livia pointed at herself arrogantly. Indeed, for a nouveau riche like you, opening up an underground space is nothing. Rintasaka looked at Livia with jealousy. There was no helping it. She was rich. Then Wuming, have you really decided to enter the mirror world alone? Rintasaka and Livia looked at Wuming. Chapter 263. Wuming looked at Rin Enbin in surprise. It can't be helped. This is the best choice for now. Rin Enbin sighed. You're right. Then I wish you good luck. Trust me. Even if I die, I won't really die. My real body isn't here. You have to survive. Livia looked at Wuming. I remember Meiyu's birthday is coming up. When we celebrate with her, I don't think Meiyu will be happy without you as her brother. During Meiyu's stay at Livia's house, Livia accidentally found out about Meiyu's birthday because she wanted to know more about Meiyu and Wuming's past. I remember Meiyu happily telling me that you celebrated her first birthday with her. The smile on her face was the brightest I've ever seen. You're right. It's almost July 20th. Wuming closed his eyes and recalled the 5 years he spent with Meiyu. Every time Meiyu's birthday came up, Wuming would throw a fun party for Meiyu. Including Meiyu, there were only 3 people. Wuming still remembered that Amiya Kiritsuga's death made Shiro Amiya sad for a few days. At the time it was Meiyu's birthday. Shiro Amiya forced a smile and celebrated Meiyu's birthday with Wuming. In the end, Meiyu saw Shiro Amiya's sadness and made a fool of herself. At the time, Meiyu's emotions weren't very rich. But now Meiyu had changed a lot. However, because Wuming was also a problematic child, Meiyu's emotions were still not at the level of a normal person even after a few years of school life. However, Wuming was lucky to have Rinpochian. If he hadn't met Meiyu, if only Shiro Amiya was left to take care of Meiyu after Amiya Kiritsuga's death, with Shiro Amiya's personality and Amiya Kiritsuga's teachings, perhaps Shiro Amiya would take care of Meiyu like a prop. Well, Wuming felt that Shiro Amiya might not listen to Kiritsugu and take care of Meiyu like a sister. That's all for now. Wuming opened his eyes. I'll leave the plan to build the channel to you guys. After speaking, Wuming left as if he didn't care about anything else. It's rare to have time to rest. Let Meiyu rest more and enjoy this birthday. Soon it was July 20th, which was right next to the summer vacation. During this period of time, Meiyu and the others' primary school life was still as usual. They continued to play and learn every day. However, it seemed that they noticed the slight change in Wuming's and Meiyu's mood. Elia and Little Blackie didn't stay in their own house. Instead, they often stayed in Shoyu's house. This made Sela complain to Wuming often. However, Alice Field smiled happily and said, "Isn't that great? Mr. Wuming is a good person." On the other hand, Rin Enbin and Livia were wholeheartedly focused on building the channel. It was worth mentioning that perhaps because they were both holy grails, Meiyu and Elia's birthdays were actually on the same day. As for Little Blackie, who was Elia's other half, it was naturally the same birthday as them. This became a big party for the 3 of them to celebrate their birthdays at the same time. As Winterwood City wasn't far from the seaside, Wuming, Meiyu, Elia, Little Blackie, and the others discussed celebrating their birthdays by the seaside. It was worth mentioning that the quartet who often played with Elia and the others also agreed to celebrate their birthdays by the seaside. But Wuming felt that they were mainly going to the seaside to play. By the seaside, Wuming wore swimming trunks and revealed his muscular upper body. Looking at the few of them who had already started playing around, Wuming turned to Meiyu beside him. "Meiyu, why aren't you playing with your friends?" Meiyu was wearing a fresh and cute swimsuit. Because she wasn't used to it, her face was slightly red. I want to play with Brother Wuming." "It's good that you have such intentions. It's rare for you to have playmates, so hurry up and go play." Wuming nudged Meiyu, indicating for Meiyu to go over. Meiyu looked at Elia and the others who were waving at her, then looked at Wuming and nodded with a smile. "Okay then, Brother Wuming, see you later." With that, Meiyu ran toward Elia. As expected, Meiyu has become very close to a normal person. Wuming crossed his arms and nodded. "I really couldn't tell that Lord Hyunryong is actually a siscon." A serious female voice came from behind Wuming. Wuming narrowed his eyes and turned his head to look behind him. "What? I'm not allowed to be a siscon. I have a full understanding of modern human society." Wuming looked at Bazette with displeasure. Fully understanding modern society doesn't mean one has to be a siscon. This was something that Bazette didn't dare to say. "No, I'm just casually saying it. Please don't take it to heart." At this moment, Bazette was dragging a large amount of luggage behind him. "If you're a servant, then do your job well. Do you still want tips?" Wuming said with a smile. However, now Wuming's smile was slightly broken. "Yes, master." Bazette had an involuntary expression and bowed to Wuming. Now, Wuming was Bazette's master, and Bazette was a servant under Wuming. A few days after Bazette attacked Livia's house, Wuming went to Zelika's office and asked for a list of people. Then Wuming visited these people one by one in a friendly manner overnight. After they promised with tears in their eyes, Wuming left after teaching them a lesson. Oh right, these people also gifted Wuming a large amount of rare magic materials. Since they were gifted with great kindness, how could Wuming not accept it? And the reason why Bizet became like this was because of Livia. Livia's family, the Eiderfelts, used the destruction of the mansion as an excuse to pressure these forces. This caused these forces that were robbed clean by Wuming to be unable to explain themselves and could only sell Bizet. All of his credit cards were frozen, and all travel expenses were cancelled. This was Bizet who was scammed by the higher-ups. Could it only be described as evil capitalism? Because Bizet lived in the Shoyu house before the order was issued, Wuming used the threat of eating my food, living in my house, using my money, to force Bizet to work in Wuming's house. Just like this, the penniless Bizet had no choice but to become Wuming's servant. And he was a servant who didn't have a salary and only received tips. It couldn't be helped. After all, Bizet was in debt to begin with. Then, go put down your luggage. We'll be spending the night here. As he spoke, Wuming took out a large amount of money. Take this money and use it as your activity fund. If there's any left, use it as your travel expenses. Yes, master, I'll go now. Bizet took the money. Although his facial expression didn't change much, his somewhat lively tone betrayed Bizet's unstable heart. Although Wuming's Shoyu house's wealth couldn't be compared to the long-established Eiderfelt's family, but in Winterwood City, it was still considered a big local. Naturally, it had this small amount of money. Wuming laid down on the beach chair that was already set up, basking in the sun with a face full of enjoyment. Sure enough, when it's time to enjoy. Summer vacation is the best. Chapter 264. In the end, Wuming didn't get to enjoy the sunlight for long before Little Black pulled him over. Big brother, it's rare for you to come to the beach. Don't just lie there. Come and play in the water. Yes, I know. Just like that, Wuming was pulled over by Little Black, and they played a game of beach volleyball. Wuming, Little Black, Mayu, Moriyama, Nanakuru were in one group. Ilya, Yujianza, Ryuko, Korihara, Tarika, and Gue Mimi were in the other group. Of course, this was the result of drawing lots. Although Ilya was a bit angry that she couldn't be in the same group as Wuming, and was even mocked by Little Black, Ilya still tried her best to play beach volleyball. Although the result was that Wuming's group won. After that, Korihara Tarika gritted her teeth and tried to persuade her. Alright, it's just a game anyway. Be happy. Today is your birthday, Ilya. That's right. Moriyama Nanakuru agreed. Be happy, Ilya-chan. The gentle Gue Mimi also tried to persuade her. Although Korihara Tarika and the others said so, Ilya was still a bit unwilling. I originally wanted to be in the same group as Big Brother. Not to mention that I couldn't be in the same group as Big Brother. I was even mocked by Little Black. After Wuming's group won, Little Black hugged Wuming and kissed him. Although I can't deny that Little Black is excited, I really can't accept it. Ilya looked at Little Black and Wuming who were playing with each other. She was very disappointed. Tarika looked at Ilya awkwardly. Brother complex is really scary. Speaking of brothers, Tarika thought of Ilya's brother, Shiro Amiya. Speaking of which, why didn't Ilya's brother come? My brother seemed to have said, "It's not good for me to go to a birthday party full of little girls. Besides, Mr. Wuming will also go back, and I still have work to do in school." My brother used this reason to refuse to come to the beach. Oh, Ilya is really calm. I remember that Ilya seemed to like her brother in the past. Why did she change to like Mayo's brother now? Nanao Moriyama narrowed her eyes and said in a strange tone. You, what are you talking about? How could I like Big Brother? It could only be said that Ilya was still a child and did not know how to hide it at all. Kurihara Kibana and the others could tell at a glance. I don't think it's a good idea to interrogate Ilya like that, Kurihara Tora said, a little embarrassed. Yes. Gue Mimi, the lowly with a weak sense of existence, also nodded. By the way, aren't you guys interested? Mayu likes her brother a lot. Does Ilya want to steal Mayo's true love and act out a sad love story with Mayo's brother? Nanao Moriyama's words attracted Kurihara Tora's attention, and even Gue Mimi was a little moved. After all, children of this age were especially curious, and it was inevitable for them to have wild imaginations, including Ilya. Love story. Steal Big Brother from Mayu. How is that possible, Nakuri-chan? Stop talking nonsense. Ilya was at a loss and shouted in panic. Does Ilya want brother Wuming? This was Mayu, who was worried about Ilya's situation and left Wuming and Little Black's team to visit Ilya. Mayu. What are you talking about? I didn't mean that. Now, encountering the person she was talking about, Ilya was a little embarrassed at this moment. If it's Ilya, then it's not impossible. I can share brother Wuming with you. Mayu considered for a moment and said as if she had made up her mind. Oh, what a surprise, Mayu-chan. He actually wants to share big brother Wuming with Ilya. Ilya's little friends were all astonished. What? Did I miss something? This was Yujianza Ryuko, who had just returned from swimming in the sea after playing beach volleyball. There's nothing. Ilya pulled Mayu and ran away. Did I miss something? Yujianza Ryuko looked at Kurihara Tora and others innocently. Bang! Kurihara Tora punched Yujianza Ryuko's head. Yujianza Ryuko's eyes instantly turned into mosquito smoke, and then he instantly fell to the ground. Really? Don't come and make trouble. In the distance, Ilya, who was pulling Mayu and running away, stopped at a large rock and gasped for breath. Ilya? Mayu didn't understand why Ilya pulled her and ran away. She tilted her head and looked at Ilya. That. Tora and others were just joking, ahahaha. Ilya laughed awkwardly. But Mayu still had a puzzled expression. Because it's a little embarrassing. Although I like Big Brother, he's Mayu's big brother after all. Moreover, I liked my own big brother before, so this makes me seem a little unladylike. No. I didn't say that. Ilya explained in a panic. Mayu looked behind Ilya. Little Black walked out from behind the rock. Really, Ilya? Do you have to be so timid? If you love, say it out loud. Little Black looked at Ilya speechlessly. Don't tell me you didn't. Little Black interrupted Ilya's words. Don't try to lie. I was one with you not long ago. I can say that I know everything that you know and think. Little Black was like a general that made Ilya speechless. Mayu looked at Ilya, who lowered her head and was even more puzzled. That's because Big Brother helped you many times in battle. He even helped you when you were in danger. However, because of this, you gradually fell in love with Big Brother, Little Black continued. This isn't something that's difficult to talk about. After all, it's very easy to conquer a person in such a situation. Ilya, we're still children. We might not have a clear understanding of things like love. You don't have to be so afraid and feel inferior just because you fell in love with Big Brother. I'm sorry, Mayu. Ilya lowered her head. She didn't dare to look at Mayu. However, Mayu only shook her head and held Mayu's hand. I understand Ilya's feelings very well. I remember the first time I met brother Wuming. Wuming used his warm and powerful arms to save me. From that moment onwards, I felt that I couldn't leave brother Wuming. Mayu recalled how Wuming had saved her in Frank's house. Mayu revealed a smile that Ilya and Little Black had never seen before. Seriously, what's wrong with you guys? Why aren't you guys here yet? Are you guys chatting about something interesting? At this moment, Wuming walked out from the other side of the rock. Why is Big Brother here? Ilya changed the topic in a panic. Bazette brought watermelons. I wanted Little Black to call you guys over to eat. I didn't expect to be delayed for so long. Wuming pointed at the watermelons placed on the beach and Yujianza and the others who had already started to enjoy them. I'm sorry, Big Brother. I forgot about this because we were talking about something interesting. Little Black stuck out his tongue in embarrassment. That's nothing. I thought something had happened. All right, let's go eat the watermelons. Yes. Chapter 265. Time passed quickly while everyone was playing by the beach. By the time everyone reacted, it was almost late. Okay, everyone go to the house over there. Let's start the birthday party. Yes, the temperature at night by the sea in summer generally dropped a little, which added a trace of relief to the summer heat. As the sun gradually set and the moon slowly rose, Wuming and the others gathered at the dining table. There were countless delicacies on the table. Although they were not made by Wuming, the taste was top-notch. After all, this was made by the chef that Wuming spent a lot of money to hire. In the center of the table was a cake with ice cream and ice. It made people feel refreshed just by looking at it. What a sumptuous table of food. Ilya smiled happily. The changes in her mood caused by what happened during the day had almost recovered at this moment. Of course. This is my shop. Eugene's face was full of pride. That's right. By the way, because this shop was the most popular one around, Wuming also chose this shop. When they found out that this shop was the property of Eugene's family, Ilya and the others were quite surprised. By the way, the chef was hired by Wuming. In short, Eugene's provided the shop, and the delicacies were provided by others. Although Eugene's father was a little unwilling at first, when Wuming paid enough money, they happily agreed. Wuming couldn't help but sigh at the power of money again. Wuming remembered that Livia was able to make Bizet's higher-ups compromise. Well, even if Bizet's higher-ups didn't give in, Wuming wouldn't let Bizet go back. Not afraid of death, not afraid of pain, beautiful appearance, vigorous skills, and the power to create the backlight sword. She would do whatever the higher-ups told her to do. She was extremely obedient, pure, and so on. In Wuming's view, Bizet was simply a perfect servant. How could he let her go? Ahem, back to the topic. Before starting the meal, Wuming took out the birthday gifts prepared for the three of them. 3 football-sized boxes were tied with pink, blue, and red bows respectively. Thank you, big brother, Brother Wuming. The 3 of them appeared to be a little emotional at this moment. Hey, big brother, can I open it now? Little Black looked at Wuming expectantly. Of course you can. You can all open it now. After all, it was prepared for you. Wuming waved his hand, indicating that Xiaohei and the others could open it. The 3 of them couldn't wait to open the packaging and take out the contents of the box. There were 3 gift boxes that were slightly larger than the size of a palm. However, based on their exquisite appearance, they must be very valuable. I personally wrapped these 3 boxes, and the gifts inside were prepared by me without anyone else's permission. Open them and take a look. Big brother, did you make it yourself? Ilya glanced at Wuming and carefully opened the gift box. What entered Ilya's eyes was an exquisite pendant necklace. Naturally, Xiaohei and Meiyo's gifts were also pendant necklaces. The most important places on the 3 necklaces were decorated with beautiful gems. However, Ilya's pendant was mainly pink, Meiyo's pendant was mainly blue, and Xiaohei's pendant was mainly red. The gems were also the same. Wow, so beautiful. Kurihara Norika said somewhat exaggeratedly from across the table. It's really beautiful. The quiet lowly Gue Mimi said with an envious expression. I can only say that as expected of a member of a large family, this gift is very thoughtful. Moriyama Nantorai nodded. Although Wuming didn't stay in Winterwood City for a long time, Wuming used some legal methods to create a Shitsuki family in Winterwood City. To the outside world, it was announced that the Shitsuki residents had moved to Winterwood City. Many people knew about this, so Moriyama Nantorai wasn't worried about this matter. It's not for eating. Bad review, bad review. Bang. Kurihara Norika instantly stepped on Yujienza Ryuko under the table. You idiot, even if you're joking, you have to look at the atmosphere. After Ilya, Meiyu and Xiaohei took out the necklaces, they were all attracted by the beautiful necklaces. However, Xiaohei's eyes turned as she thought of something and looked at Wuming. Big brother, I want you to put it on for me, okay? Xiaohei is too cunning, I want it too. Ilya didn't want to be outdone and said. Wuming looked at Meiyu, who also had an expectant expression, and then agreed. Okay, line up, one by one. After taking the necklace from Xiaohei's hand, Wuming wrapped it around Xiaohei's neck and easily put it on. I love you the most, big brother. Xiaohei instantly kissed Wuming's cheek and shouted happily. Ah. Xiaohei, what are you doing? Ilya said in a panic. This is my thank you gift for big brother. You can do the same. After all, no one said that you can't do this. Xiaohei looked at Ilya provocatively and smiled at her. Emph. Ilya walked in front of Wuming and handed the necklace to Wuming. Then, when Ilya was hesitating whether to kiss Wuming or not, Wuming put on Ilya's necklace for her. He left Ilya with a regretful look. Finally, it was Meiyo's turn. Brother Wuming. Meiyu looked at Wuming with a red face. Clearly, she was also wondering if she could be like Xiaohei. Why are you hesitating about this? As long as Mayu grows up healthily and happily, it will be the greatest thank you gift for me. With that, Wuming put on the necklace for Mayu. Thank you, brother Wuming, for always being with me. With that, Mayu gently approached Wuming's cheek and kissed Wuming's cheek. You even did it for Mayu. Ilya lay on the ground with a defeated expression. Wuming smiled and patted Mayu's head. This formed the warmest scene between siblings in this banquet. It must be said that after the three of them put on the necklace, there was a considerable change. They were originally beautiful people. When they were matched with beautiful accessories, it was no longer 1 + 1 = 2. Instead, it was an even greater number. The three of them are so beautiful. I must say that Mayu's big brother matched them quite well. I think they're very beautiful. Ilya, Mayu and Xiaohei. As expected, food is a better gift. MHM. Bam. Shut up. Don't make such jokes again. Ha 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 ha. Accompanied by everyone's laughter, they started this sumptuous banquet. Wuming looked at Mayu, who was laughing happily, and smiled as well. This smile was especially warm. Chapter 266. Although the beach where Wuming and the others were at was very close to Winterwood City, they still stayed in a hotel by the sea that night. After all, it was a birthday party, and Wuming certainly couldn't let the guests run around after the party. Therefore, Wuming, who had a small fortune, booked the entire hotel for everyone to play and stay. The next day, Wuming booked a car and sent everyone home. In the afternoon, Wuming went to Livia's house and asked about the establishment of the underground passage. Because we are only responsible for supporting you, the passage is almost completed. Originally, Livia wanted to build a battle fortress. At the very least, she could arrange the terrain in advance when she fought against the Mirror World's servants transformed by cards. After all, the Mirror World was just a reflection of this world. Except for the fact that there were no people and the color of the environment was slightly different. It was just like the real world. So soon? I thought we would have to wait a few more days. Wuming said with some surprise. We've dismantled all the places that were originally designed as traps, and simply built an underground tunnel that can withstand high impact. If that's all, of course, it can be completed quickly. Rin and Osaka stroked her twin ponytails and explained to Wuming, then asked, by the way, when did you decide to retrieve the card, so we can be prepared? Yes, even if we don't go into the mirror world with you, we still have to be prepared. This card that has been absorbing for nearly 2 months may evolve into something we can't imagine. Even if you are a servant, Wuming, you can't be careless. Counting from the first job rank card, from Wuming's departure to Little Black's separation from Ilya's body, Bazette's attack on Livia's family, and Livia's secret relationship with Rin Inbin, Mio, Ilya, and Little Black's birthdays were almost 2 months away. In the worst-case scenario, this class card was a monster that had been absorbing leyline magic for 2 months. It had to be said that Rin and Osaka and Livia were very thoughtful. When Wuming dealt with the most difficult berserker, it took almost a whole day. Although Hercules was strengthened by the black mud, and Wuming was limited by the body of a servant, it was enough to see how difficult it was to deal with a card transformed into a servant. Even if the 9th card was Assassin, after absorbing the magic power of the Earth Vein for nearly 2 months, its power would become extraordinary. In short, this class card was very difficult to deal with. Wuming thought for a moment, then looked at Rin and Osaka and Livia. Let's do it tomorrow. Rin and Livia looked at each other, then nodded to Wuming. After returning to the Shoasuki house, Wuming saw Mayu waiting for him as soon as he entered the door. Welcome back, brother Wuming. Mayu smiled and looked straight at Wuming. Wuming froze for a moment, then walked in front of Mayu and touched her head. I'm back, my lovely sister Mayu. Looking at Mayu's face, Wuming felt very relieved. Brother Wuming, I made dinner, let's eat together. Although Wuming often cooked at home, it didn't mean that Mayu didn't know how to cook. On the contrary, Mayu's cooking skills could be said to be deeply Wuming's inheritance. If Mayu worked as a chef in a restaurant, then the restaurant would definitely make a lot of money. Of course, Wuming certainly wouldn't allow it. A magical girl becoming a chef? Are you kidding me? Oh, then I must taste it well. I haven't eaten much during this time. The servant's body only needed magical power. Wuming usually ate out of habit. In the dining room of the Shoasuki house, Wuming tasted Meiyo's dishes. It's delicious. It seems that Meiyu will grow up to be an excellent and beautiful bride. Bride? Can I really become a bride? At the moment, Meiyu seemed a little uneasy. Wuming, who was very familiar with Meiyu, naturally knew what Meiyu was thinking. Don't worry, Meiyu, your brother will protect you for a lifetime. Modestly speaking, if my main body is here, even the suppression will have to give in to me. Although she didn't quite understand what suppression was, since Brother Wuming said it must be a powerful character, Meiyu thought. Brother Wuming has always been so powerful, and has always been so reliable. Looking at Wuming's rather proud expression, Meiyu, who was originally a little depressed, was also amused by Wuming. That's why Meiyu just needs to be happy. Otherwise, as her older brother, I would be neglecting my duty. Looking at the short black hair that covered her blonde hair because of the use of magic, and then looking at Wuming's pale golden pupils and Wuming's handsome face that didn't want to live for a long time, Meiyo's beautiful face showed a beautiful smile. Now I feel that it's really a miracle to be able to be Brother Wuming's sister. Why do you suddenly say that? Wuming was somewhat puzzled. Nothing. Meiyu looked at Wuming and continued to smile. Although he was still somewhat puzzled, but I'm also very happy, Meiyu, to be able to be your sister, to be your brother. Although it seemed like nothing major happened between the two, Wuming knew that his relationship with Meiyu had improved. The next night, Wuming, Meiyu, Blackie, Ilya, Rinenbin, and Livia all gathered on the beach. Because Livia and Rinenbin detected that the location of the 9th class card was under the beach near the sea, Livia directly let her construction team rent the nearby beach for construction. When Wuming, Meiyu, and the others held a birthday party together, Wuming chose another beach. So Wuming and the others didn't let the construction dampen their spirits. By the way, Livia's house that was destroyed by Bazette had already been repaired. Let's go, this should be the final battle probably. Rin Enbin's final words at the end made the originally stressful atmosphere relax a little. Rin is right after all, there are already 2 extra cards. We can't rule out the possibility of other cards. Livia explained. Don't worry, this is indeed the final battle. After this battle, I will tell you the origin of the class card, as well as the secrets of me and Meiyu. We have been waiting for this for a long time, big brother. When the time comes, you have to tell me properly. Blackie hugged Wuming's arm and acted coquettishly. Could it be that everyone already knows that Brother Wuming and I are hiding something from you? Meiyu looked at everyone in disbelief, as if they should have known. After all, we have lived together for such a long time. Naturally, we have already noticed that Big Brother and Meiyu are hiding something. Ilya touched her head a little shyly. Sorry, Ilya. Meiyu looked at Ilya a little apologetically. It's okay, Meiyu. Everyone has things that they don't want to talk about. Ilya. Meiyu looked at Ilya rather emotionally. If you don't catch up, we are going to leave. Blackie's voice came from afar. Ilya and Meiyu came back to their senses and realized that they were the only ones left. Wait for us. Chapter 267. Starting from the ground, there was a spiral staircase that led to the bottom. Ta-ta-da-dash. Wuming and the others arrived at the bottom of the staircase. After arriving at the bottom, Wuming realized that the space at the bottom was extremely large. The spiral staircase was just a passageway. This is the battle location we designed. Rin Enbin spoke first. Silent wonder surveyed the area in front of him. It was a semicircular cave with a diameter of nearly 100 meters. At a glance, there was nothing in the way of obstructions. This was an area that was created to facilitate Silent Wonder's battle. The walls were made of high-density alloy with a large number of magic runes engraved on them. They were mainly used to support the ceiling and prevent the cave from collapsing during battle. Since they had considered the possibility of a battle, they didn't use high-grade flooring. It was just a simple metal plate. How is it? It should be enough for your battle, right? Livia asked Wuming. It's enough, but it'll take a while. Looking at Wuming, who was not in a hurry, everyone was puzzled. Is there anyone else coming? It's almost midnight. Rin Enbin said. Although they could enter the mirror world at a time other than midnight, it was more stable to enter at midnight. Coming. After Wuming said that, there was the sound of hurried running. A figure rushed down the spiral staircase and jumped in front of Wuming. I'm not late, am I? Bazette. Why are you here? Everyone was shocked. That's right, the person who came was Bazette in a men's suit. Is this your idea, Wuming? Olivia looked at Wuming in surprise. Yes. After all, Bazette's combat power is not to be underestimated. With her and you guys here, I can rest assured. For some reason, Wuming felt uneasy. Therefore, Wuming called Bazette, who was a servant, over. Is she really okay? After all, she was our enemy not long ago. Rin Enbin whispered into Wuming's ear. Don't worry. Since I've already become Master's servant, I'll definitely abide by the rules. Bazette vowed solemnly, speaking with a rather imposing manner. Otherwise, Master will deduct my tips again. I don't have a salary to begin with, so I can only rely on tips to get the funds to go home. Today, I almost blew up the kitchen. Not only did I not get my tips, but my working hours were also extended. In the end, I was even locked up to reflect on myself. Bazette said gloomily. This was also the reason why Bazette didn't appear when Mayu and Wuming were having dinner together. Ahaha, this is really hard work. Ilya laughed awkwardly. All in all, with Bazette here, your safety can be assured. Even if I have to risk my life, I will definitely protect your lives and get the tip. If you want to hurt you, you'll have to step over my life first. Bazette's face was full of I'm burning up. I think you're just doing it for the tip. Ilya looked at the burning Bazette speechlessly. Looking at the group that wasn't nervous at all, Wuming smiled. Brother Wuming. At this moment, Mayu walked in front of Wuming. You must come back safely. Wuming looked at Mayu's eyes. The determination and trust in her eyes were conveyed to Wuming. I definitely will. I haven't eaten enough of the food Mayu cooked for me. Yo, FGLA stood up. Then I'll be right back. Wuming walked to the center of the empty space underground and waved his hand with a smile. Teleportation begins. With Colos's voice, the magic circle wrapped Wuming, and Wuming disappeared. Wuming opened his eyes that were closed because of the white light at the moment of teleportation. He was moving toward the mirror world, surrounded by a strange space. A virtual space? Wuming said. This was a space that existed on the reverse side of the world, and the mirror world was also on the reverse side of the world, a space that was rooted above the virtual space. At this time, Wuming heard a song, but the sound was quite sad. This is. The moment Wuming heard the song, he felt that his body's function had declined. According to the attributes of a servant, all 6 attributes had declined by 1 level. His strength, durability, and agility, which were originally grade C, had all been reduced to grade D. Other than his mana, which was still grade X, even his luck and noble phantasm had been reduced by a grade, from grade A and A+ to grade B and B+ respectively. Wuming looked at a certain place through mana perception. Unfortunately, Wuming only vaguely saw a figure with big horns before he was teleported away. Wuming appeared in the underground cave's mirror world. Just now, who was that? Wuming thought about the figure he saw just now. With just a song, Wuming's attributes were reduced. Although he was a servant, being able to reduce Wuming's attributes showed how powerful he was. If my main body was here, I wouldn't be afraid of that guy. Unfortunately, I'm still sleeping inside my origin. Wuming said regretfully. After all, regardless of whether it was an enemy or an unknown thing, Wuming was interested in that figure. However, things seemed to be a little bad now. Wuming looked at the huge magic fog that was still spinning in the center of the cave, and a berserker's roar came from it. This is a little bad. After all, facing a powerful enemy, Wuming's attributes were reduced. No matter how one looked at it, Wuming was at a disadvantage. Such a huge magic fog that can be used as both a spear and a shield. How much magic did this guy absorb? Wuming frowned. Although it was still not as powerful as Wuming's magic, this magic fog was indeed quite large. I hope he wasn't stained by the strange black mud. While Wuming was talking, the card servant in the magic fog launched an attack. Swish, swish, swish. 5 or 6 iron whips formed by the magic fog viciously lashed at Wuming. Boom! The floor was smashed. Wuming jumped up, floated in the air, and then took out a silver holy sword from the golden ripples that appeared beside him. I'll accept the greeting gift. Now it's my gift to you. Stars hidden in the world. Holy sword that annihilates all evils. There is no need to cover your light anymore, shine. The broken holy sword turned into a silver dragon-shaped light beam and rushed toward the magic fog that was constantly spinning. Silver meteor. Chapter 268. A violent explosion appeared in front of Wuming, and a gust of wind engulfed Wuming. His clothes fluttered in the wind. The mana fog dispersed, but what entered Wuming's eyes was a huge shield. This sense of déjà vu really makes one feel somewhat helpless. This scene caused Wuming to recall the scene when he was fighting Romo. Back then, Wuming had also fired a beam of light, but it was blocked by Rama's Aegis shield. However, it wasn't the Aegis shield, but a shield that Wuming didn't recognize. A noble artifact? After all, only a relic could block Wuming's silver meteor. At this moment, the huge shield began to crack. Then, it shattered and turned into bits of black light before disappearing. After the shield shattered, the figure behind the shield was revealed. This figure was pitch black. Other than its blood-red eyes and the blue lines on its cheeks, the rest of its body was completely black. Let's call him Black Follower for now. It seemed that the Black Follower was furious because his shield was broken. He waved his hands, and countless black ripples appeared on the ground beside him. This move. Could it be? Wuming looked at this very familiar scene and felt a little excited for a moment. However, the Black Follower would not let go of any opportunity to kill the enemy. Countless swords, spears, swords, and halberds emerged from the black ripples. Black Follower turned his hand, and countless weapons were pointed at Wuming. The weapons that were summoned by Black Follower were all noble relics. Swish, swish, swish. Countless relics shot towards Wuming, but Wuming did not panic at all. He did not even try to dodge. Then, a series of explosions occurred at Wuming's location. Boom, boom, boom. After the explosion, smoke and dust covered the place where Wuming was standing. As expected, you are the Hero King. Gilgamesh, my disciple. Wuming's voice came from the dust cloud. Black Follower was slightly stunned when he heard someone calling his name. When the dust settled, Wuming held a shield in his hand. It was the Aegis shield that Romo had used in the previous battle. The Aegis shield. Behind Wuming, the Manchala formation appeared. Then, Wuming put the shield back into the formation, and the formation disappeared. That's right, this was the materialization of the Sword of Salvation held by the last king, the Manchala formation, which was comparable to the Gate of Babylon. After successfully becoming the hero and becoming the last king, Wuming thought more than once that since the Sword of Salvation was the weapon of the last king, could Wuming, who had become the last king, use the Manchala formation and the countless god relics in it? The answer was yes. Wuming had successfully materialized the Sword of Salvation and formed the Manchala formation. He had also taken out the god relics in it and used them. Now Wuming had turned the tables on Black Follower. But shouldn't you be with Angelica Ainsworth? Why are you here? That was right. Angelica, who fought Wuming in the parallel world, had undoubtedly used Gilgamesh's card. The Gate of Babylon wasn't something that anyone could use. Only Gilgamesh, the king of Babylon, could possess this precious artifact. Just when Wuming was thinking, Black Gilgamesh summoned countless relics from the black ripples again. Forget it. I'm the idiot who's talking to you. No matter what, you're just a force without consciousness now. As Wuming spoke, the Manchala formation appeared behind him again. Black Gil roared and shot countless relics at Wuming. Meanwhile, Wuming simply waved his hand and countless god relics shot at Black Gil. Bang! 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 Black Gil's relics collided with Wuming's god relics, and the explosions cancelled each other out. Black Gil was enraged, perhaps seeing that the technique that he was proud of did not work. Whoosh! Suddenly there was a gust of wind. A black ripple appeared in Hegel's hand, and a strange weapon emerged from it. It was a weapon that looked more like a staff than a sword. Is that the Guile Separation Sword? Wuming recognized the weapon that was accompanied by a raging red hurricane as soon as it appeared. After all, Wuming had used it before, and there was a weapon similar to the Guile separation sword in the Manchala formation. However, Wuming was not going to use the Guile separation sword from the alternate world. That was because, Xiao-en. As Wuming commanded, countless chains shot out from the golden ripples behind Wuming. Their target was Black Gil, who was holding the Guile separation sword. Black Gil seemed to have sensed the danger as well. He immediately summoned the black magical mist around him to block the chains, and set up many shield relics in the magical mist. However, how could the improved version of Enkidu, which had both offense and defense, be blocked by the magical mist? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The golden chains pierced through the magical mist, bypassed the shields, and instantly wrapped around Black Gil. The red hurricane on the Guile separation sword that Black Gil was holding disappeared, and the 3 rotating blades stopped spinning. Even the magical mist around Black Gil disappeared. This was the powerful power of the Silent Earth Lock, Enkidu, the binding energy. The magic fog had been forced back into Hejil's body. The magic fog was formed by a class card, so it was natural for it to leak out when there was too much magic in the body. Naturally, it could be taken back. Black Gil roared furiously when he felt that he was restricted. Sure enough, it's just a force. If he's really here, how could he be so easily restrained by Enkidu? Wuming shook his head and crossed his arms in regret. Checkmate. Wuming flew down from the sky and walked to the restrained Black Gil. Wuming extended his hand and infused it with magical power. He instantly inserted it into Black Gil's heart and grabbed a card. It was the class card of the Archer class card. However, Wuming discovered a trace of a problem. He could not take out a class card. Hejil, who had been furious, instantly changed his expression. He chuckled as if his plan had worked. Then, Wuming felt that his hand was corroding. Releasing the class card, Wuming instantly pulled his hand out. Looking at his right hand that was still emitting black smoke, Wuming could not help but look at Black Gil's heart. I opened a big hole there, and there was some black substance inside the hole. However, the black substance was different from the black substance on Black Gil's surface. It was the black mud that had the aura of the Dragon of Origin. Trouble. Chapter 269. Outside the mirror world, Rin and Osaka and Livia closed their eyes and crossed their arms as they waited quietly. Bazette, on the other hand, stood in the same spot without moving an inch. Meiyu, on the other hand, looked worriedly at the place where Wu Ming disappeared. As for Ilya, why hasn't Big Brother come out yet? Ilya kept walking and started complaining. Little Black, who was sitting on the steps at the entrance, looked at Ilya with disdain. That's a guy who has absorbed the Earth Vein's magic power for almost 2 months. Even if it's Big Brother, it'll be troublesome. Then Little Black smiled and waved his hand. But with Big Brother's strength, he'll definitely be able to deal with it. But I'm very worried. I can't do anything about it. Ilya drooped her little head and said dejectedly. It's okay. It's normal for Ilya to be worried about Brother Wuming. You don't have to feel ashamed about it. Meiyu, who was looking at the spot where Wuming disappeared, walked up to Ilya and patted her little head. It seemed like Ilya had never been patted on the head by Meiyu before, and was unable to get used to it. What's wrong? Ilya, did I go overboard? Meiyu had a worried look on her face. That's not it. It's just that I'm not used to it. Speaking of which, Meiyu seems to be very familiar with it. Ilya patted her head with a smile. This is because Brother Wuming often patted my head at home. I learned it unknowingly, Meiyu said embarrassedly as her cheeks reddened. Meiyu can enjoy Big Brother's patting every day? I'm so envious. Ilya heard and cried out enviously. Ilya, don't be like this. I'm so shy. Wuming pushed Ilya with a red face. And just as Ilya was about to say something, the space around her shattered. Kacha. A red hurricane shot out from the broken space. What is this? Ilya asked in surprise. Then a pitch-black face appeared in the shattered space. What? What is this? Ilya was clearly shocked. Ilya. Meiyu. Hurry back. Rin Enbin yelled anxiously. He's not someone you can deal with. Livia shouted. Bazette, on the other hand, was the first to rush over. Mayu stared blankly at Black Gil, who was not far away. She fell into an overwhelming silence. Mayu clearly knew that this enemy was Wuming's opponent in the mirror world. Since the enemy had broken through space and came out, then Wuming had already. Brother Wuming. Ha! Bazette raised his fist, and Lune runes appeared on his fist. Bazette's strengthened fist heavily smashed into Black Gil's face. But, bang! Bazette was sent flying by the impact. Hee hee hee. Black Gil laughed with a twisted expression, and a dense black magic fog surrounded him. This is high-density magic fog, Bazette exclaimed in surprise. This scale is much greater than Saber's. Rin Enbin and Livia were also surprised. Ilya, let's go. Mayu, who was awakened by Bazette's attack, instantly pulled Ilya and flew toward Rin Enbin and Livia. Hurry. Ilya, you take me. Mayu, take Livia. Let's quickly retreat from here, Rin Enbin said. But big brother, he, crack. Space shattered, and an exit that allowed Black Gil to pass through appeared. Black Gil laughed loudly. Whoosh bang. A black arrow hit Black Gil, and the resulting explosion covered Black Gil's figure. Little Black. Ilya looked at Little Black. What are you doing? Hurry up and retreat. Little Black maintained his bow and arrow posture, and projected another bow and arrow. But big brother, he's still. Ilya said worriedly. Big brother is very powerful. He'll be fine. On the other hand, if big brother comes out of the mirror world and finds out that we're dead, then big brother will be very sad. Ilya, let's retreat. At this moment, Mayu's voice came from beside Ilya. Mayu. Why? Ilya didn't understand why Mayu also chose to retreat and give up on Wuming. Brother Wuming and I have an agreement. Brother Wuming said that he will definitely return safely from the mirror world. I believe in Brother Wuming. Seeing Mayu's firm gaze, Ilya was dazed for a moment. Then she smiled and nodded heavily. Okay, I understand. Let's go, Ruby. Wow. Wow. You're all pumped up. Whoosh. Boom. Blackie shot another arrow at Hejil. Aha. Black Gil was enraged by Little Black's behavior. Hurry up and come over. I'll cover you. Little Black, who was already at the entrance, naturally didn't need to take the lead. Thus, she needed to cover the others. Then Ilya carried Rin Enbin while Mayu carried Livia. The two of them flew toward the entrance of the passage. Bazette, who originally wanted to continue attacking, also began to retreat after Rin Enbin said, The opponent has a noble artifact that can break through space. If you want to die, we won't stop you. It could only be said that Bazette was a little silly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Little Black shot a few more arrows at Black Gil. Bang. Boom. However, Black Gil's magical mist shattered all of Little Black's arrows. Aha! Black Gil roared. Black ripples appeared around him, and countless noble artifacts appeared. Ah! Black Gil roared again, and countless noble artifacts shot toward Little Black. Little Black run. Ilya and the others had already arrived at the center of the passage, so they hurriedly called for Little Black, who was still fighting Black Gil and covering them, to retreat. Little Black jumped lightly and grabbed the handrail of the stairs in the passage. Boom 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 boom. Countless noble artifacts that lost their target bombarded the wall and the ceiling began to shake. Boom boom. Not good, big brother hasn't come out yet. Ilya exclaimed when she saw the underground cave began to collapse. It's too late. The collapse of the cave can only delay the black servant's footsteps. We must quickly leave the passage and return to the surface. Otherwise, it's likely that we will be killed in this passage. Rin Enbin said calmly. Ilya and the others who were no longer emotional looked at each other, nodded, and began to fly toward the surface. At this moment, a sound like an airplane taking off came from the underground. Chapter 270. This is. Rin and Osaka and the others were shocked. What they saw was a pitch-black aircraft that looked like a bird. If Wuming was here, he would definitely recognize this. Vimana, even in Gilgamesh's treasure trove, was one of Gilgamesh's favorite treasures. Vimla's entire body was made of gold and emeralds. It could roam freely in the sky and the sea. Not only was the Vimosa equipped with various high-level relics, but it was also equipped with ancient nuclear warheads. Most importantly, The Vimosa was powered by the sun crystal that used mercury as fuel to generate solar energy. It could move at a high speed, regardless of the laws of physics. Regardless of whether it was moving vertically, descending vertically, moving left and right, or flying diagonally, the Vimosa could do all of them. Moreover, it could ensure that the passengers were safe and sound. However, because the servant was in the dark state, all of Gilgamesh's noble phantoms, including Vimana, had turned black. The black bird moved towards the ground through the passageway, and all the stairs in the passageway were destroyed. Not good. Everyone run. Rin Imbin shouted in panic. Even if Rin and Osaka hadn't said anything, even if Big Sister Rin didn't say anything, we would still leave. Ilya hugged Rin Inbin and flew out of the tunnel, crashing to the ground. Mayu, Livia, Little Black, and Bizette also came out of the tunnel at the same time as Vimor flew out. Swish. Waymona flew up vertically like a giant bird. Soon after, the originally upright Vimona flattened out, and the pitch-black Gilgamesh sat steadily on the open-air seat of the Vimona. With a twisted laugh, he drove the Vimona away. Everyone who had escaped the calamity sat weakly on the ground. Ilya, Mayu, and Blackie looked at the collapsed tunnel with sorrow. They didn't say anything, only silence. Not good. That fellow is heading towards the city. Rin Tobasaka immediately recognized Vimona's movements and exclaimed in a panic. Let's hurry and stop him. Ilya stood up with a look of grief and indignation. Suddenly, a rather bored female voice sounded. I didn't expect the first-rate magician from the clock tower to be so useless, and you bunch of useless children. A silver-haired girl with golden eyes arrived in front of Rin Inbin, and the others. Ms. Karen. Because Vimor seemed to be looking for something and didn't attack the city, Ilya and the others weren't in a hurry. The main point was that Karen, who seemed to be closely related to the Holy Church, had already used a spell to dispel and make people sleep. There were no longer any humans in the city. Rin and Osaka and Livia both blushed when they realized this. It could be said that the two of them had failed in their duties for not preparing for this in advance. After a short conversation with the girl named Karen, Ilya and the others left the collapsed passage and temporarily found a place to rest, preparing to stop the dark Gilgamesh. After Karen's explanation, everyone learned a lot of things, including the secrets of Wuming and Mayu, as well as what the dark Gilgamesh was looking for. The Holy Grail? Sitting on a chair outside the small wooden house, Ilya said in confusion. After all, she was born to be the little Holy Grail. What are you talking about? The little Holy Grail is obviously me. Ilya, you can just be a primary school student. Little Black sat beside Ilya and comforted her, although the way he comforted her was a little unusual. Ahaha, you're right. Thank you, Little Black. Ilya looked at Little Black with a face full of smiles. Humph. Little Black turned his head away proudly. Speaking of which, Mayu is suffering the most right now, right? Ilya looked at Mayu, who was staring at the moon in a daze. Yes, we don't know if Big Brother is dead or alive. Compared to Mayu, who is Big Brother's younger sister, the two of us are doing better. Of course, it didn't mean that Ilya and Little Black weren't worried about Wuming. It was just that Mayu, who had lived with Wuming for almost all of her life, must be feeling very uncomfortable now that she didn't know if her brother was dead or alive. Don't worry. Wuming is the great sage of the Uruk. He's a legendary fantasy breed that even Kanzaki couldn't destroy. How could he be killed so easily? Livia's voice sounded. That's right. He's the teacher of the most ancient king. As the saying goes, the older you are, the wiser you are. If he dies so easily, it would be too degrading. Rin and Osaka's voice followed. Rin and Osaka and Livia were standing behind Ilya and Little Black without them noticing. You scared me. Really, Sister Rin and Sister Livia, why didn't you make any sound when you walked? Ilya was shocked. On the other hand, Little Black seemed to have noticed the two of them long ago and didn't show much panic. You're paying too much attention to Mayu. Look at Little Black and you're fine, Rin and Osaka complained. Is Mayu still worried about Wuming? Livia looked at Mayu with some heartache. Although Mayu had only stayed in her house temporarily, Livia had already treated Mayu as her younger sister. Big Brother, are you really all right? Ilya's voice became gloomy once again when this topic was brought up. You just need to believe in him. Rin and Osaka said confidently. Although it seemed like Rin and Osaka and Livia weren't worried about Wuming's safety, they actually believed in Wuming. They believed that he was a heroic spirit who had saved them. He was a high-level existence, but he was still their equal partner. At that moment Mayu moved. Mayu turned around and jogged to the small wooden hut where everyone was gathered. That aircraft is making a big move. Mayu pointed at Vimona, who was moving at full speed toward Yuzong Mountain. It really is Yuzong Mountain. Let's go. Through the information provided by Karen and the judgment of Rin and Osaka and the others, everyone had more or less guessed that Dark Gilgamesh's target was the Great Holy Grail. Let's go. Yeah. Everyone replied in unison. Moments after everyone left, Karen and Bizette appeared. Aren't you going? Karen said rather uninterestedly. With him here, I'm not needed, Bizette said in confusion. Are you so sure that he's still alive? Not sure but a fact. As if to prove Bizette's words, a ray of light suddenly appeared at the entrance of the collapsed tunnel. Seeing this ray of light, Karen and Bizette didn't say anything. After the ray of light disappeared, a meteor flew toward Yuzong Mountain. Damn it! I was careless and fell into his trap, Wuming said rather angrily. Just you wait, my cute disciple. Chapter 271. Near the foot of Yuanzong Mountain. Since Ilya and the others had already guessed the destination of the Dark Gilgamesh, they rested in a small wooden hut near Yuanzong Mountain. Therefore they still neglected Vimona's full speed. As a result, Vimona arrived at Yuanzong Mountain ahead of time. Not far from Yuanzong Mountain. We should have set off for Yuanzong Mountain without stopping, Rin and Osaka complained. But if that's the case, Ilya and the others will also exhaust their stamina, Livia said. I have a question. Even if we catch up with that airship, how are we going to stop it? Ilya raised her small hand. Sure enough, we only planned to stop the Dark Servant first, but we didn't plan how to defeat him. Ilya's small face drooped. We can use Dream Summon install, Mayu said. Dream Summon install. Ilya and the others were puzzled. With the help of a class card, transform yourself into a servant and obtain the power of a heroic spirit. That's how I came to be, Blackie said. But it seems that we're too late now. Ilya pointed at Vimona's light that descended, not knowing what to do. Vimona's ancient nuclear warhead was fired. Boom! A louder roar than before and a bright light that seemed to illuminate the world made Ilya and the others unable to open their eyes and temporarily lose their hearing. It couldn't be helped. Ilya and the others were not far from Yuanzong Mountain. But fortunately, Ilya and the others didn't arrive at Yuanzong Mountain ahead of time. Otherwise, they would have died without a complete corpse. My ears hurt. With the ruby's healing effect, Ilya quickly recovered. Mia was no exception. Rin and Osaka and Livia had already fainted. As for Blackie, although he still felt uncomfortable, he was still a servant after all. Blackie's recovery was still very strong. By the way, Wu Ming had implanted the magic power generator he made for Xiaohei in the form of an artificial magic circuit into Xiaohei's body. In other words, Xiaohei would no longer disappear due to exhaustion of magic power. What should we do? He must have gone to look for the Holy Grail, Ilya said anxiously. Ilya, don't worry. Mayu's voice suddenly choked up. Why are you crying, Mayu? Xiaohei and Ilya asked in surprise. Mayu didn't answer Ilya and Little Black's question. Instead, she pointed at the meteor streaking across the sky. Ilya, who had ruby vision, and Xiaohei, who had the body of a servant, saw the meteor clearly. It's Big Brother. Xiaohei and Ilya's voices were filled with joy. Like Mayu, the two of them couldn't help but shed tears. Brother Wuming. That's great. Brother Wuming, you didn't lie to me. You really left the mirror world safely. Mayu was crying tears of joy as she spoke intermittently. Look, Big Brother has become a giant. Boom! The ancient nuclear warhead was detonated in Yuanzong Mountain. Wuming looked at Mayu and others who were affected. Wuming instantly became furious. Fear the one with wings. Evil people and powerful people are all afraid of me who have wings. My wings will bring you a curse. Evil people can't hit me. I am the strongest, and I have all the victory in my hands. be it human or demon. I am a person who can defeat all enemies, and I will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. Giants with unparalleled divine power, please give me your aid. With the release of Phoenix's soul, Wuming gained speed beyond anything. With the release of Giant, Wuming's magical power formed a huge giant. Come down. Wuming instantly came to the head of Dark Gilgamesh, who had released the ancient nuclear warhead, and was ready to accept the Great Holy Grail. He punched him hard and hammered him to the ground. Wuming's punch directly shattered Vamona, then turned into a little black light and disappeared. Dark Gilgamesh's voice came from the huge golden palm. Gurgle gurgle. A large amount of black mud appeared under the giant's golden palm. Whoosh! Wuming's golden palm began to smoke, and the black mud began to corrode the golden palm. Wuming controlled the giant to raise its palm, and stepped back slightly. Sure enough, this black mud has a strong restraining effect on me. Wuming frowned and looked at the black mud that kept pouring out of Dark Gilgamesh's body. What kind of strong restraining effect was this? For example, if the black mud was left on the ground, it wouldn't have any effect on the flowers and trees on the ground. However, as long as it came into contact with silent noise, the black mud would explode like a mixture of raw materials, full of corrosiveness. When Wuming found the black mud in Dark Gilgamesh's body in the mirror world, the black mud took the opportunity to attach to Enkidu. With Wuming's attribute, the black mud naturally corroded Enkidu. As Enkidu was naturally injured. Wuming hurriedly lifted Enkidu's Enkidu and released Dark Gilgamesh. As a result, the black mud, as if found a breakthrough point, emerged from Dark Gilgamesh's heart and surrounded Wuming. Because the distance was too close, Wuming was instantly swallowed by the black mud. After that, Dark Gilgamesh had lost his opponent, so he took out the Gweili sword and broke through the mirror realm. As for Wuming, it could only be said that Wuming was indeed an existence that countered the black mud. Wuming released the aura of his origin dragon. Although the black mud swarmed toward him like maggots, the lack of replenishment allowed the black mud to be eliminated by the aura of his origin dragon. Although he still couldn't understand why the black mud produced from the origin dragon could restrain Wuming, and why the aura of the origin dragon could restrain the black mud, Wuming knew that if he mixed his moves with the aura of the origin dragon, the black mud would be severely damaged. The next time my main body wakes up, I should be able to find out the truth, Wuming thought. Aha! The black mud began to change. Countless black mud began to gather together and slowly fuse with Dark Gilgamesh as the center. Do you think I'll let you have your way? For victory, come to me quickly. Immortal Sun, please grant me a shining steed. Spirited steed, bring me the light wheel that symbolizes your master. The sun descended on Winterwood City, which was originally dark. Chapter 272. Neigh. Accompanied by a loud neigh, a handsome white horse descended from the sky with the sun on its back. Boom. That night, the entire Yuanzhong mountain disappeared. House of Einstein Barons. Sela was sitting at the dining table, eating in small bites, while the TV was playing the news. Because a meteorite suddenly fell on Yuanzhong Mountain last night, it caused the natural trachea buried in Yuanzhong Mountain to explode. It's terrible. A meteorite suddenly fell to the ground. And is there natural gas in Yuanzhong Mountain? Sela thought. By the way, when did I fall asleep last night? I don't remember. Well, isn't this good? Sela must be so tired that she doesn't even know when she fell asleep. Alicefield sat next to Sela, eating and looking at Sela with a smile. Is that so? Yes, Sela was too tired. She accidentally fell asleep. She should go to bed early in the future, Lizette complained. You're the one who often falls asleep. Sela said helplessly. Mama, Alicefield smiled even more happily. By the way, Ma, do you really not need to call Ilya and the others? They had too much fun last night. Let them have a good sleep. Shopayu residents. Mayu was sleeping in the room, while Wuming and Bizette were enjoying breakfast. Speaking of which, Master made quite a ruckus last night. Suddenly, Bizette opened his mouth. Last night, Wuming directly used double authority, and added a lot of his aura to summon the white horse, which directly melted Yuanzhong Mountain, including the Great Holy Grail at the bottom of Yuanzhong Mountain, and the black mud that formed the giant. Wuming's move directly burned the black mud. After using double authority, Wuming came to Mayu and the others in time to protect them. Wuming still remembered how miserably Ilya, Mayu, and Little Black had cried back then. Wuming comforted them for a while before they stopped crying. According to Xiaohei, this was the price Wuming had to pay for deceiving them. This made Wuming smile bitterly. Moreover, Wuming also promised to take the three of them to the amusement park as compensation. Not knowing whether to laugh or cry, Wuming shook his head and came back to his senses. I don't want to either, but if we continue to let him do as he pleases, who knows what will happen? Then, a golden ripple appeared behind Wuming, and a young figure bound by Enkidu fell out. Plop! Ouch, teacher. Can't you be gentler? I'm your favorite disciple. A childish voice entered Wuming's ears. Wuming looked at the figure. He had a small body, short golden hair, red eyes, and a naked body. If it wasn't for Enkidu covering his 3 points, Wuming definitely wouldn't have let him out. You still have the nerve to say that. You're clearly the hero king, yet you were corroded by a mere black mud. You should be thankful that I didn't send you back to the martyr's palace. Wumless gave the figure a ruthless slap. That's right, that was the young hero king, and it was not the female version that Wuming knew. The hero king in this world was the male version. You can't blame me for this, teacher. The black mud has your breath, so I treated it as an ally. Young Gil looked at Wuming with a smile. It seemed like Wuming used a lot of force, but Wuming didn't use much force. He only gently knocked on Young Gil's head. Young Gil naturally knew that Wuming wasn't this world's Hianriyang. However, due to the suppression, when Wuming came to a parallel world, the identity of that world's Wuming would be attached to Wuming. If one had to say something, it would be that the suppression left a seat for Wuming in every parallel world. As long as he came, that seat would be taken by Wuming, and Wuming would leave his mark in history. Young Gil knew Wuming because of this. Although Wuming had never seen the male version of Young Gil, the female version of Gilgamesh that Wuming knew was almost exactly the same as the male version of Young Gil. Even their temperaments and personalities were the same. Seriously, put on your clothes and come over for dinner. Wuming rubbed his forehead helplessly. Then he took out a set of Uruk clothes from his relic and threw it to Young Gil. The moment before the clothes touched Young Gil, the heaven lock, Enkidu, was completely retracted by Wuming. Young Gil didn't care about Bazette's presence. He quickly put on his clothes and sat next to Wuming. I didn't expect you to save Enkidu in another world, sensei, Young Gil said with a smile. Although Wuming's Enkidu had changed a lot, as a close friend, Young Gil could still recognize Enkidu. When Enkidu bound Young Gil, Enkidu and Young Gil communicated. Even if they were close friends in a parallel world, that wouldn't change. Naturally, the two of them had a happy conversation. It's not considered saving. At that time, I escaped from the Uruk with my tail between my legs, Wuming said casually. Haha. That's because sensei was restricted by the era. If you released your body, those gods would have surrendered to you a long time ago. Young Gil laughed as if he had heard a happy story. The gods all live in a higher dimension. In other words, they are already dead, Wuming said to Young Gil as he drank a mouthful of porridge. Even if they died 10,000 times, it wouldn't be enough, sensei, Young Gil said with a smile. The reason Young Gil said this was naturally because of Enkidu. Enkidu, who was saved by Wuming, stimulated Young Gil and reminded him of the dead Enkidu of this world. Children shouldn't always talk about death, Wuming flicked Young Gil's forehead. Zai. Sensei is so nice to children. I thought sensei had become a lilycon. Young Gil patted his chest and sighed in relief. Your personality is still so bad. I really don't know what you learned from me. Wuming was a little speechless. I am the ancient king, the hero king Gilgamesh. What I learned from sensei is naturally the basic principles of being a king. Don't pour dirty water on me. I don't remember teaching you to have a bad personality. Wuming refuted Young Gil's words with a little disdain. Sigh. Why are you like this, sensei? After I went to the West, I also had a disciple there. She was much better than you. Wuming was talking about Artoria. Oh, someone who can be accepted as a disciple by sensei, then I have to get to know her. Young Gil's eyes were full of interesting charm. Bang! Wuming gave Young Gil another flick. Well, this time it was a hard flick. Sensei, it hurts. Chapter 273. Wuming continued to eat as if nothing had happened. You've obviously become smaller, but you're still so uncute, just like the grown-up you. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. I also hate the grown-up me. Wouldn't it be better to be gentler? Although young Gil said so, Wuming knew that whether it was young Gil or the grown-up Gilgamesh, their personalities were the same. It was just that young Gil was the two-faced type. He looked good, but in fact he was full of evil interests. Now that I've destroyed the tactics of the Great Holy Grail, do you still want to pursue the Great Holy Grail? Wuming asked without turning his head. Young Gil took a bite of Wuming's food and showed an expression of enjoyment. Since the small Holy Grail is teachers, then I can only give it up. Young Gil smiled. That's suspicious. Wuming stared at young Gil and said suspiciously, you appeared in the young version and not the grown-up version because someone used your other class card, right? Wuming suddenly said, well, as expected of teacher. That's right. Now most of my noble artifacts are on the other side. Young Gil smiled helplessly, because Angelica used the archer card of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh's other card, which was the current young Gil, could be considered as an incomplete version. That's good. I'm preparing to attack the side with your card. Do you want to make up the numbers? Wuming's mouth curved into a smile. Hey, since teacher has personally appeared, do you still need me? Young Gil had a leisurely look on his face as he ate. Well, that's true. Since that's the case, you can stay here and look after the house. Wuming smiled. Also don't bully Beauty. Wuming smiled and said word by word. Yes, teacher. Young Gil smiled awkwardly. After dinner, Wuming asked young Gil to wash the dishes. It had to be said that although the young Gil and the adult Gilgamesh had the same personality, the young Gil was able to control his temper more easily. When Wuming said to wash the dishes, he eagerly went to do it. As for Bazette, he was sent out by Wuming to buy ingredients. Wuming held the omelette rice that he had specially left for Mayu. Moreover, it was Wuming who had specially processed it with his magic to keep it warm. Then Wuming knocked on Mayu's door. Mayu, are you awake? Wuming asked softly. However, there was no sound coming out from the room. Don't tell me she's still sleeping. Wuming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then he opened Mayu's door. When he opened the door as expected, Mayu was lying on her small bed. Because it was summer, Mayu's body was only covered with a thin layer of blanket. Wuming put the omelette rice on the table beside Mayu's bed, then gently sat on Mayu's bed. Mayu is really cute. Wuming laid in front of Mayu and carefully looked at Mayu's sleeping face. These few years, I feel like I'm raising a daughter. I really miss it. Fortunately, Mayu's nature was not very active. She was a quiet Mayu loli. Moreover, Mayu was very sensible. This made Wuming feel very relaxed and happy about raising a daughter. As if she sensed that there was someone around her, Mayu, who was sleeping soundly, moved and slowly opened her eyes. This is Brother Wuming. However, Mayu seemed to be in a daze. She looked at Wuming in a daze. It seems that yesterday was really tiring for you. This is the first time I've seen Mayu in such a daze. Wuming said with some heartache. After all, last night, Mayu was not only worried about Wuming's life, but also had to stop a powerful and terrifying enemy. Her body and mind were always tense. It was understandable that she slept like this. Brother Wuming. Mayu said in a daze. What's wrong, Mayu? Wuming said in an exceptionally gentle tone. He could not wake up a person who was in a daze instantly. This would cause some damage to her mental state. It was better to wake her up slowly and gently. Ilya said. Everything in the dream is not real. Then, I want to. Brother Wuming. Wuming looked at Mayu in confusion. What does Mayu want to do with me? Wuming moved closer to Mayu's ear and asked again. Wuming really did not hear the last sentence that Mayu said. Kiss kiss. As she said this, Mayu reached out and grabbed Wuming's neck. She instantly raised her head and kissed Wuming. Wuming widened his eyes. He really did not expect that Mayu, who usually looked especially quiet, would be so daring at this moment. Could it be that she was the same as usual? but became extreme in her sleep because of the suppression of her daily life? Also, what did Ilya tell Mayu? Fortunately, even if Mayu became extreme, she was still Mayu. Wuming only touched her slightly. After touching Wuming's lips lightly, Mayu let go of Wuming. At this moment Mayu, who was in a daze from her sleep, was almost awake. Mayu came back to her senses. She looked at brother Wuming's face that was incomparably real. She recalled what she had done just now. Mayu was stunned. I've prepared some food for you. Hurry up and eat, Wuming said gently. Wuming did not stop because of Mayu's shallow kiss just now. Wuming adjusted himself and instantly recovered from his shock. It's just a kiss from a sister to a brother. It's no big deal. Wuming began to self-hypnotize himself. However, Mayu was unable to let go of what had just happened. Woo. Woo-woo. Wuming. Brother. Mayu's entire head was as red as a monkey's butt. She stared blankly at Wuming and stuttered. Wuming looked at Mayu, who was unable to look at his eyes due to her shyness. He did not know whether to laugh or cry as he smiled. Hurry up and eat. I can feed you today. Wuming touched Mayu's scalding hot little head and said gently. If one did not know the inside story, Mayu's scalding hot little head might be mistaken as having a fever. Look, I made your favorite omelette rice for you. Wuming said as he picked up the bowl of omelette rice on the table beside Mayu's bed. Mayu was indeed a genius girl. After seeing that Wuming did not panic from the previous kiss, she calmed down a little. Do you need me to feed you? This is a rare opportunity, Wuming asked again. Okay. Mayu's little head nodded. Wuming held the bowl of omelette rice in one hand, and the spoon in the other hand. He gently scooped up a spoonful of omelette rice, and sent it to Mayu's mouth. Ah. Wuming said. Ah. Mayu opened her little mouth and sucked on the spoon. How is it? Wuming asked with a smile. Mayu tasted it carefully. It's delicious as always, brother Wuming. Mayu still did not dare to look at Wuming. Her cheeks were slightly red as she said. Then let's continue. Okay. Chapter 274. Then I'll go out first. Also, Mayu's sleeping posture is very cute. Wuming finished speaking and left Mayu's room with an empty tray. Mayu lowered her head deeply, her cheeks red. Ruby, when did brother Wuming come in? Mayu said shyly. Sapphire flew out from Mayu's hair and spoke while floating. Lord Wuming came in for about a few minutes. Because he sat beside you to observe Lord Mayu's sleeping posture. He woke Lord Mayu up. Then Lord Mayu kissed. Mayu instantly grabbed Sapphire and covered her mouth. It was Sapphire's hexagram. Probably. Lord Mayu. It was obvious that Mayu didn't cover Sapphire's mouth. Sapphire asked curiously. I don't think that Lord Mayu is a pervert who kisses her brother. After all, you aren't blood-related siblings. Theoretically you can. Don't say any more, Sapphire. Mayu blushed and shook Sapphire continuously. I understand, Lord Mayu. Then Mayu let go of Sapphire. Mayu thought about everything she did with Wuming, and the words she said to Wuming. She shook her head in confusion. The reason why Mayu said that since it's a dream, then everything isn't real, was because Mayu had almost been forcefully kissed by Ilya. After that incident, Ilya told Mayu that everything in the dream was fake. Children at this age like to dream, so it shouldn't be taken seriously. Ilya's goal was to let Mayu understand that her actions back then weren't, because she liked Wuming. However, the extremely smart Mayu naturally knew that Ilya liked her brother. In the end, Mayu misunderstood that Ilya meant that they could do anything in the dream. In the end, the aforementioned morning kiss happened. Oh. After thinking about it carefully, Mayu covered her face in shame and started sobbing. Wuming left Mayu's room and went to the kitchen. When Wuming came in, young Gil, who was washing the dishes, raised his hand to greet him. Yo, teacher, you're finally out. Young Gil finished washing the last dish and looked at Wuming. Wuming placed the plate beside young Gil's dish. I'll leave this to you too. You're feeding me personally, aren't you? That's nice. Even teacher hasn't fed me before. Young Gil obediently started washing the dishes again. That's because you're a man. Wuming waved his hand. Back then, he had fed the lowly Gil quite a lot. However, as they grew older, the lowly Gil became the cold and domineering big sister Gil. Therefore, Wuming's feeding privilege was revoked. Sigh, and you said that you don't like Loli. Teacher, seriously. Wuming narrowed his eyes. He could only say that he was indeed the male version of Gilgamesh. He was even more mischievous than the female version. You'd better be prepared. I'll introduce you to my friends later. Remember, don't cause trouble for me and don't talk nonsense. Yes, teacher, young Gil replied with a smile. I hope so. Wuming left the Shoyu residence. Before he left, Wuming handed a game to young Gil. This is a modified version of Grand Strategy that I've specially modified with magic power. Clear it before I come back, Wuming said. After all, he had to find something for young Gil to do. Otherwise, with his mischievous taste, it was inevitable that he would cause some trouble. Wuming arrived at the house of Einstein Barons and parked the car at the door. Wuming entered Ilya's house. Wuming walked to the door. Just as Wuming was about to knock on the door opened by itself. Ah, isn't that Mr. and Mrs. Xiao? Ah, isn't this Mr. Wuming? Are you here to look for Ilya and Blackie? They're still sleeping. It's so rare that the two of them are sleeping together. I've been looking at their sleeping faces for a long time. Mr. Wuming, you should go and take a look. Aliceville was just about to go out and bumped into Wuming when she opened the door. What a coincidence, madam. Are you going out? Wuming said gracefully. Yes. After all, the meteorite last night caused the natural gas pipeline to explode, and Yuanzhong Mountain was blown away. I have to check it out. Looking at the smiling Aliceville, Wuming felt awkward. The news report about the meteorite causing the natural gas pipeline to explode and collapse was naturally made up by Wuming and the others to cover up the ordinary people. However, Wuming didn't know that the disappearance of Yuanzhong Mountain was actually explained as the meteorite causing the natural gas pipeline to collapse. Last night, Wuming handed this matter over to Rin Enbin, Luia, and the others. Then he left with Ilya and the others. After all, the disappearance of Yuanzhong Mountain would definitely be discovered by the citizens. They had to deal with it as soon as possible. The result was, they're really unreliable. Wuming complained in his heart. About that, I'll take care of it in the near future. Wuming touched his head awkwardly. Allah, that's great. Then, I'll take my leave first, Mr. Wuming. After saying that, Aliceville left the Arinsbellen mansion. Hudash, Wuming let out a long sigh of relief, and then walked into the house. After greeting Sela, Wuming went directly to Ilya's room. According to Sela, Ilya and Little Black slept together last night, so Wuming only needed to go directly to Ilya's room. Ilya, Little Black, are you awake? Wuming knocked on the door and asked. After waiting for a few seconds, Wuming determined that the two were still asleep. I'm coming in. With that, Wuming pushed open the door to Ilya's room. What entered Wuming's eyes was Little Black and Ilya's intertwined sleeping posture. Seriously, both of them. Why are their sleeping postures so improper? Wuming shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Wuming walked to the side of the bed, bent down, and shook Ilya and Little Black. Ilya, Little Black, it's time to wake up. I have something to tell you. Wake up. Following Wuming's shaking in voice, Ilya and Little Black opened their eyes in a daze. Hey, it's Big Brother. Good morning, kiss. Ilya smiled in a daze and reached out to hug Wuming. Again. Wuming, who had experienced it before, naturally did not fall for it this time. However, this was not the main point, but Ilya hugged Little Black and kissed Little Black's lips. Big Brother. Ilya said as she kissed. Wuming silently cast a soundproof barrier, just in case. At this moment, Ilya just woke up. Ilya was silent and looked at Little Black in a daze. Then, she looked at Wuming, who was standing at the side. Wuming was also silent, and did not say a word as he looked at the ceiling. Aha! Ilya's screams caused Wuming to helplessly cover his ears. As expected, I'm the genius who set up the soundproof barrier. Chapter 275. Alright then, I'll leave with Ilya and Little Black first. Wuming held Ilya and Little Black's hands and stood at the door to bid farewell to Sela. However, Little Black seemed to be holding back her laughter, while Ilya lowered her head with a blushing face. Yes, take care, Sela smiled and waved goodbye. After walking out of the door, Little Black began to laugh. Hee hee, Ilya is so cute. Little Black looked at Ilya playfully. Woo woo woo. Ilya felt even more ashamed. Even though Ilya's scream didn't reach Sela's ears, it woke up Little Black, who was still sleeping. Looking at Ilya's flushed and bewildered expression, looking at the astonished Wuming, feeling the moisture on her lips, and combining it with Ilya's scream, Little Black instantly understood everything. Come to think of it, I'm the victim. Why are you so shy when I haven't even said anything? Little Black looked at Ilya helplessly and held her forehead. But, oh-hoo. Ilya lowered her head even more. Isn't it because you wanted to have a morning kiss with Big Brother, and ended up kissing me instead? Or is Ilya regretting that she didn't kiss Big Brother? At that moment, Little Black became mischievous again. You're talking nonsense. I didn't. However, Ilya's blushing and stuttering rebuttal didn't seem to be valid. Alright, that's enough. Little Black, let Ilya off. With soundless pleading on Ilya's behalf, Blackie naturally nodded. By the way, why did Big Brother look for us today? Little Black asked the key question. At the same time, Ilya also looked at Wuming. Of course, it's about the 9th class card. After Wuming said that, the two of them became particularly serious. After all, the servant transformed from the 9th class card was rather terrifying. Showayu residence. A dark spatial door appeared out of thin air. Wuming walked out with Little Black and Ilya. We're here. Wuming let go of the hand that was held by Wuming out of fear. It had to be said that this teleportation gate spell was indeed a little scary, but it couldn't be helped. After all, it was a spell designed for darkness-type monsters. Ilya? Little Black? Mayo's voice came from the side. Mayu was sitting on the sofa in the living room, doing her summer homework. Mayu! Ilya shouted excitedly, and then ran to Mayo's side. Little Hay also walked over. After seeing Mayu doing her summer homework, Little Hay didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I really don't know if I should say that Mayu is a natural or a careless person. She just went through such a horrible experience, but the next day, she started doing her summer homework as if nothing had happened. Wuming smiled helplessly. Mayo's personality was like that. Basically, she wouldn't be emotionally unstable because of anything. And the only time she had emotional lines was when Wuming's life was uncertain. But at that time, Mayu still insisted on doing what she was going to do next, and didn't lose her fighting spirit completely because of emotional lines. Got to say, Mayu had an extremely calm mentality that even adults didn't have. But no matter what, Mayu was only a primary school student. After Wuming appeared from the mirror world, Mayu choked up and couldn't speak. This was clearly proven. Because if I don't do a little every day, I will have to work hard to make up for it in the future. Mayu answered in a serious manner. As expected of Mayu. That's Mayo's style of answering. Ilya and Little Black smiled awkwardly. It's about time, Wuming suddenly said. ? Ilya and the others looked at Wuming in confusion. Master, I've brought Rin and Osaka and Livia Serena Edelfelt here. At that moment, Bazette's voice sounded from outside the door. Shortly after, Bazette pushed the door open and entered, followed by Livia's black twin ponytails and blonde wavy hair. When Wuming got Bazette to buy ingredients, he also got him to bring Rin and Osaka and Livia over. In the end, the natural Bazette tied up Rin and Osaka and Livia and brought them over. Everyone arrived at a small conference room, and sat on 2 rows of sofas in the conference room. Seriously, we would have come back if you just let us know. Is there a need to do this? Rin and Osaka stroked her twin ponytails in displeasure. That's right. You're really not ladylike at all, and you don't respect ladylike women at all. You actually tied me up with Rin and Osaka. Livia stroked her blonde wavy hair. What do you mean by that? Do you think I still like being tied up with you? Rin and Osaka glared at Livia fiercely. Ah, what a pitiful attitude, Rin and Osaka. Livia mocked back. Ahem, Wuming, who was sitting at the head of the table, coughed twice and then glared at Bazette. Bazette's body immediately tensed up like a mouse that saw a cat. She knew that she did something wrong again, probably. Wuming, who was sitting at the head of the table, stopped glaring at Bazette and began to speak. First, let's talk about the 9th grade card. Everyone had a serious look on their faces. After all, the blackened servant yesterday was an existence that fooled Wuming. and in the end, Wuming had to use sun to eliminate the blackened servant. The blackened servant yesterday is my disciple, Hero King Gilgamesh. Brother Wuming's disciple. Ilya, Xiaohei, and Meiyu were surprised. Sure enough, Rin and Osaka and Livia said secretly, yesterday, the blackened Gilgamesh used countless noble phantoms to bombard Rin and Osaka and the others. Not only did he have a noble phantasm that could cut through space, but he also had an airship that could fly and release ancient nuclear bombs. After Rin and Osaka and Livia's investigation, they almost locked onto the ancient king, Hero King Gilgamesh. The airship yesterday was Vimona, am I right? Bazette said. Wuming nodded. But that Hero King was defeated by Big Brother, right? Ilya meant that there was no need to talk about the defeated enemy. No, actually, when I defeated him, I also destroyed the Great Holy Grail technique in Yuzhong Mountain. As a result, the two of them had some connection. With that said, Wuming snapped his fingers, and a golden ripple appeared beside him. Clatter. Young Gilgamesh fell to the ground with the sound of chains. Hello everyone, I'm Master's favorite disciple Gilgamesh. Nice to meet you. Chapter 276. Young Gil's body was wrapped in chains, but even so he still greeted everyone. This child is Big Brother's disciple, the oldest king. Ilya said in disbelief. It's the real deal. I'm the oldest king, the Hero King Gilgamesh. Looking at young Gil's sweet smile, Ilya was dumbfounded. But why is the legendary oldest king a child? Blackie voiced out the doubts in Ilya's heart. This is probably how the Hero King, Gilgamesh, looked like when he was young. As expected of a first-rate magician from the clock tower, Rin and Ben instantly thought of this possibility. Rin is right. Because most of Gil's power is in another card, the current Hero King, Gilgamesh, is also a weakened version of a child, Wuming explained. Wait. Another card? Livia repeated what she heard from Wuming. Yes, that's right. This is also the topic of this meeting that I called everyone here. Then Wuming told everyone that he and Meiyu came from another world, which was the parallel world. Because of the House of Einstein Barons of the other world, Ainsworth's persecution of Meiyu, Wuming fought with him and was tricked in the end. Shiro Amiya of the other world used the Holy Grail to make a wish, and sent Meiyu to this world. He also came to this world because he was pulled by the Holy Grail when he disappeared. He told everyone a series of things. Big Brother from the other world, Ilya said slowly. The House of Einstein Barons of the parallel world, Ainsworth? Blackie said with a serious expression. The Holy Grail War of the Cards? I see. Bazette said thoughtfully. No wonder you know so much about the class cards. Rin and Ben looked at Wuming and Meiyu with a look of relief. So why are you telling us all this? Livia asked. Isn't this what you've always wanted to know? Wuming smiled. I'm sorry, Ilya Little Black. Meiyu looked at Ilya and Little Black apologetically. How could that be, Meiyu? After all, everyone has things that they don't want to talk about. It's not your fault. Ilya held Meiyu's hand and smiled at Meiyu. It wasn't easy for Ilya to say something reliable, but she's right. Meiyu, if you want to blame someone, blame Big Brother. It's Big Brother's fault for hiding it from us. Little Black said mischievously. No. You can't blame Brother Wuming. I'm also responsible for everything here. Meiyu shook her head in a slight panic. This made Wuming laugh. You guys. I'll buy ice cream for you guys later as an apology. How about that? Really? I want strawberry-flavored ice cream, and it's a double-layer ice cream. Ilya looked excited. Seriously, a mere Ilya was bought over by ice cream. Little Black looked at Ilya with disdain. Ilya didn't refute. She scratched her head awkwardly. If it's me, I want 4 layers of double-flavored ice cream, Little Black said proudly. Ah, Little Black, you're still talking about me. Aren't you also bought over? Ilya's little face puffed up like a little bun as she stared at Little Black. I think, Wuming, you must have other things, Livia said after thinking for a while. Wuming smiled slightly. You're right. I'm preparing to attack Ainsworth, and I want you guys to help me take care of Meiyu. What? When Wuming said this, everyone shouted in surprise. Among them, Mayu had the most intense reaction. Why? I want to go back with Brother Wuming, Mayu said with a slightly anxious tone. That's not a good choice, Wuming. Rin Enbin crossed his legs. You said it yourself. Because you were defeated by Ainsworth, with the help of the parallel worlds. Amiya, Kuan, Mayu was sent to this world. If you go back, wouldn't you be walking right into a trap? Ilya and Little Black nodded frantically. Unfortunately, even if I don't go back, Ainsworth has the ability to find this place. Since that's the case, I might as well act first and gain the upper hand, Wuming explained. Then, Livia arrogantly pointed at herself. If that's the case, you'll need someone else's help. Coincidentally, I, Livia Sarinta Eiderfelt, happen to be a good ally. I'm quite free these days. Also, don't forget, you promised to help me analyze class cards. If you don't know how to do it, who's going to help me analyze class cards? Rin Enbin followed Livia's words and said. When Livia heard this, her expression changed. Damn you, Rin Enbin, you actually secretly asked Wuming to help analyze class cards behind my back. Livia stared at Rin Enbin, and Rin Enbin didn't back down and stared back at Livia. I'm hiding it from you. What can you do about it? Their eyes were filled with the flames of battle. Since they can find us, I think it's better to act first and gain the upper hand according to Big Brother's words. Although I'm not that strong, I'll still help with Mayu and Big Brother's matter. Ilya clenched her fists and encouraged herself. My heart is the Archer class card. Since I'm already involved in this matter, of course I have to help Big Brother solve this matter. Little Black then jumped into Wuming's arms and hugged Wuming's neck affectionately. Moreover, the magic power essence that Big Brother gave me is now flowing well in my body. I have to repay you well. You. What are you doing? Little Black, get down from me. Ilya's face instantly turned red, and she quickly ran over to pull Little Black away from Wuming's arms. This matter has nothing to do with me, but the other party has all the secrets of the class cards. As the designated executor of the seal, I have to take it back. Bazit had a serious expression. However, Wuming looked at Bazit with a teasing expression. Cough, after all, I still owe you a debt, master. Bazit's face turned red. It had to be said that although Bazet was a bit silly as a magician, he still had a bit of humanity. Of course, it was only a bit. Everyone. Mayu looked at everyone in the room with tears in her eyes. As if in tacit agreement, Rin and Osaka and Livia who were glaring at each other, Ilya and Blackie who were tugging at each other, and Bazit who had been sitting there without moving, all looked at Wuming in unison. Wuming closed his eyes and said helplessly, It's really troublesome. I understand, then I'll leave it to everyone. Oh, it's good to be united. Don't you think so, Little Blue? Ruby floated on the side, and said while watching the scene. Sister finally said something reliable. I'll reluctantly accept you today, Sapphire said calmly. Ah. Little Blue. Why are you like this? I'm so sad. Please don't do this again, sister. Finally, young Gil, who had been tied up by Enkidu, looked at Wuming with a smile. Sensei, it seems that you're becoming more and more human. Chapter 277. Then everyone freeloaded a meal at Wuming's house. A few days later, Ilya and Blackie used the excuse of going camping with Wuming to apply for leave from home, and left the Arinsbellen mansion. When everyone was ready at the Shuasuki mansion, Wuming wasn't in a hurry to activate the parallel world technique. As for whether Wuming could travel through parallel worlds, it was naturally a piece of cake for Wuming, who could travel through parallel worlds on his own. Because he needed to locate the parallel world where Ainsworth was, Wuming spent a few days. This was also why Ilya and the others only applied for leave a few days later. Seriously, what do you mean by eating the last dinner in this world? You make it sound like we're dead for sure. Rin and Osaka ate the dinner Wuming prepared and complained at the table. Well, after all, I haven't finished locating that parallel world. Bringing the entire Shuasuki mansion through parallel worlds isn't an ordinary job, Wuming said. Well, big sister Rin, please understand Big Brother. Ilya smiled, but her smile was a little puzzled. By the way, why did Big Brother bring his mansion through with him? Isn't that too strange? Blackie asked the question that Ilya didn't ask. Bazet, Livia, and Rin and Osaka also looked at Wuming, indicating that they also wanted to know. Then Wuming smiled but didn't say anything. It's like this. The Shuasuki mansion that Brother Wuming built is actually Brother Wuming's magic workshop, Mayu said. Although Wuming didn't tell Mayu about the workshop's control room Mayu vaguely knew about it, but Mayu didn't ask. As for the other places in the Shoyu residence, when Wuming had found Mayu and brought her to the Shoyu residence, Wuming had told Mayu everything. Mayu could be said to be Wuming's most beloved person. It was true that Wuming had been to many places and met many people, but Wuming really regarded Mayu as his closest relative. The other was an origin dragon that had no parents and only had the Great Origin as its ultimate goal. One was a pure holy grail from birth. Mayu was born with a mechanism that allowed her to fulfill her wishes based on the influence of her surroundings. Before meeting Wuming, she had only met her mother. Before meeting Wuming, she had not received any general education. It was only after meeting Wuming that she began to grow as a person. Julian once said that rather than saying that Mayu had the nature of the Holy Grail, it was better to say that the Holy Grail had awakened a human personality. Mayu was such an existence. It could be said that before the age of 5, which was before all of Mayu's relatives died, Mayu could barely remember anything. At that time, Mayu only remembered her mother. Now, due to the nature of the Holy Grail, Mayu had forgotten about her mother. After all, for the Mayu at that time, her mother was the only person she depended on. In addition, at the beginning, Shiro Amiya used Wuming and Mayu as tools because of Amiya Kuritsuga's will. Therefore, Mayu's closest relative could only be Wuming. Fortunately, Shiro Amiya was later enlightened by Wuming's words and began to treat Wuming and Mayu as a real brother and sister. Mayu also didn't ignore Shiro Amiya and had already regarded Shiro Amiya as a brother. However, compared to Wuming, this brother's weight was still not enough. Magic workshop. Having said that, Wuming's profession is caster magician, right? It seems that this makes sense. Rin Hosoka was surprised at first, then said after thinking about it. By the way, what does magic workshop mean? Ilya raised her small hand and smiled a little shyly. Really, Ilya, you can be regarded as a person who has stepped into the world of magicians. How can you not know the essential knowledge of magicians? Xiaohei touched his forehead helplessly, then began to explain. The so-called magic workshop refers to the position set up by the magicians themselves. In their magic workshop, the magician's magic will be greatly enhanced. Not only can they monitor the enemies in the magic workshop in real time, but they can also set up traps, weapons, and the like against the enemy in the magic workshop. In short, it is a very powerful magic fortress. Don't fight with magicians in their magic workshop. This is common sense in the world of magicians, Livia said. Do you still remember the caster magician class card that we recovered? At that time, the mirror world had already been set up by caster as the magic workshop. At that time, the magic circle and the super powerful magic cannon attack that we saw at that time were the effects of the magic workshop. Rin Enbin added. In this way, Ilya completely understood. So Big Brother can also set up countless magic circles in his own house. Ilya said with some excitement. After all, the power of countless magic cannons was really not small, and the scene was very spectacular and gorgeous. Ilya naturally felt that it was very powerful. Well, in fact, I can do it now. Wuming touched his chin, then snapped his fingers. In an instant, countless magic circles of various sizes appeared in various places of Shoasuke's house. The courtyard, the house, the sky, and the ground were full of magic circles everywhere. Even the bowl and chopsticks used by Ilya had several small magic circles. Ilya was instantly shocked. This is... Each magic circle is full of magic power beyond imagination. There should be a limit to cheating, Bazette, Livia, and Rin Hosoka said with some disbelief. Then Wuming snapped his fingers again, and all the magic circles disappeared in an instant. These are very simple magic circles that can release magic cannons. What I don't lack the least is magic power. These are no big deal, Wuming said modestly. Rin Hosoka and the others' mouths twitched. Sure enough, heroic spirits and humans could not be compared. Even a heroic spirit's clone servant was not something that humans could catch up with. Not to mention that the servant in front of them was a top-level fantasy breed that had always been alive. These are all child's play. As long as it's an enemy, I can instantly make it disappear the moment it enters Shuosuke's house. Wuming said with a smile. Extreme cold, extreme flame, concentrated venom, force gravity suppression, atomic split, concept rewriting. As long as it's in my shrine, I'm a true god. Wuming said without hesitation. Well, although it was true, it had to be inside Wuming's magic workshop. Therefore, if the enemy attacked from the outside and did not enter Wuming's magic workshop, then Wuming could not be a god for people who were not in the magic workshop. By the way, big brother, I have something to ask you. Little Black suddenly said. What is it, Little Black? Wuming nodded, indicating that Little Black could ask. Since Shuosuke's house is Big Brother's magic workshop, then will Big Brother do something to us when we are asleep? Everyone was a little dumbfounded. Also, will Big Brother spy on us through the surveillance camera? Xiaohei is really curious. Although everyone knew that Wuming would not do this, they felt more and more uneasy when Little Black said this. I say you. Wuming was a little helpless. Just as he opened his mouth to say a few words, young Gil on the side interrupted Wuming's speech. You guys are too shallow. Teacher's words do not need to be sneaky. It must be open and above board. You guys can rest assured. Everyone hugged their bodies tightly. I feel like you're making me sound worse. How can that be, teacher? I'm just telling the truth. It hurts. This hand chop is a lesson. Next time use my body. Please show mercy, teacher. Just like this, with an uneasy mentality, everyone began the last sleep of this world. Chapter 278. In the middle of the night, when almost everyone was asleep, Wuming appeared on the roof of the Shouyu residence and looked at the Yuanzong mountain. That's right. He was looking at the Yuanzong mountain that had been destroyed but had reappeared. Space displacement, huh? Wuming frowned and explained the reason for the reappearance of the Yuanzong mountain. Teacher, it seems like the other party has already found their way here. Accompanied by golden particles, young Gil landed beside Wuming and looked at the Yuanzong mountain together. The Magic Association and the Holy Church are going to be busy again. Wuming shook his head expressionlessly. Previously, the reason why Wuming didn't cover up the disappearance of the Yuanzong mountain and directly attributed it to the meteorite and natural gas was because the sun that Wuming summoned that night had attracted the attention of the residents in the surrounding cities. The Magic Association and the Holy Church used their magic to hint at the meteorite and natural gas explosion and successfully imprinted it into the hearts of the people. And now, the Yuanzong mountain that had been covered up and disappeared had reappeared. Without thinking, Wuming knew that it would be extremely troublesome to deal with the aftermath. Since the other party is already here, shouldn't we go and meet them, teacher? Young Gil said with a relaxed expression. Actually, that's what I was thinking, but... Wuming smiled mysteriously. Young Gil shivered. His mischievous personality wasn't affected by his teacher at all. The next morning, Ilya woke up in her own bedroom. Although Ilya had stayed in Wuming's house for a short period of time, it was still easy for her to sleep soundly. I don't recognize the ceiling, Ilya said in a daze. Right, this is Big Brother and Mayo's house. No, you can't sleep in someone else's house. Although she said that, Ilya didn't panic. After all, she had stayed here for quite some time, and this could be considered her second home. Ilya hurriedly sat up and patted her face. Then, she began to wash up in the bathroom in the bedroom. It had to be said that one could really do anything with money. Not only did Wuming and Mayo's rooms have their own private bathroom, but even the rest of the guest rooms had their own private bathroom. And these independent bathrooms were luxurious, with toilets, washstands, baths, and almost everything. And because it was Wuming's magic workshop, it had an automatic cleaning function, which was why Wuming didn't hire others to clean such a large house. Although Mayu would clean it sometimes because it was too clean, Mayu didn't have anything to clean for Mayu. I can only say that as expected of Big Brother, Mayu seems to be living the life of a young lady, Ilya thought. After walking out of the bedroom, Ilya arrived at the dining room. Ilya had been living in Wuming's house for nearly every morning. Either she would get up because she couldn't stay in bed in someone else's house, or she would be gently awakened by Wuming. But after washing up, the first thing she would do was to go to the dining room of the Shoyu residence. After all, it's Big Brother's food. I have to treat this food well. Ilya gulped, somewhat impatient. The dining room of the Shoyu residence wasn't large, but it was still much larger than the dining rooms of ordinary people. It was more than enough to accommodate Rin Enbin, Ilya, and the others. After arriving at the dining room, Ilya discovered that Rin Enbin, Livia, Mayu, Blackie, Bazette, and Gil were already sitting at the table and enjoying the food. Am I the last one? Ilya scratched her head in embarrassment. Too slow, Ilya. If you came any later, I would have eaten your share, Blackie said mischievously. How can that be? Ilya hurriedly sat down, expressing her ownership of the breakfast. That's why, Ilya-chan, you can only eat good food if you sleep early and wake up early. Ruby darted out from Ilya's hair, wriggled her body, and floated beside Ilya to tease her. I'm also waking up early now, but everyone woke up earlier than me. Speaking of which, why is everyone able to wake up so early? Ilya sat down on her seat and began to enjoy the breakfast that her big brother had prepared for her. Seriously, even though you're Ilya, you still have the habit of lazing in bed. I think you were able to wake up because of the temptation of Big Brother's breakfast. Blackie's words seemed to have exposed Ilya's secret, and Ilya's face instantly flushed red. How is that possible? Ahaha. In response, Ilya could only laugh dryly. If it's me, I only need to sleep for 4 hours, Bazette suddenly said seriously. Ilya laughed dryly. If she remembered correctly, this big sister in front of her seemed to be called a monster by Big Sister Ling and Big Sister Livia. As for Lord Mayu, it's because of a good habit that she's been cultivating. Sapphire floated beside Mayu and explained. Because Brother Wuming has been working very hard, so I wanted to wake up early to help Brother Wuming do something, Mayu said with a slightly red face. As for Ling and Livia, I think they were the ones who were purely tempted by Wuming's delicious food. Ruby floated above Ling and Livia's heads, and said playfully while wriggling her body. How is that possible, Ruby? Ilya was just about to refute when she saw Ling and Livia's faces instantly turn red. Could it really be? Ilya was embarrassed. I think you're tired of living, Ruby. Rin Enbin instantly grabbed Ruby. How dare you casually judge a lady? You better be mentally prepared, Ruby. Wait. Ilya. Save me. Then, Ruby was pulled into a room by 2 people. Ahahaha. Ilya was helpless. What about Gil-kun? In order to hide her embarrassment, Ilya looked at this child who looked younger than her but was a king. Isn't this normal? I'm a king, which king would laze around in bed? Young Gil held a glass of red wine elegantly and took a sip. Is that so? Ilya smiled. Speaking of which, why is Big Brother gone? Is he still in the kitchen? Ilya just realized that Wuming was not among the people eating here. If it's teacher, he's outside now. Young Gil seemed to have thought of something and smiled slightly. If it's possible, I suggest that all of you go out and take a look. It must be very interesting. Young Gil said mysteriously. Coincidentally, Rin Enbin and Livia had also returned at this time, along with Ruby, who seemed to have been played with. Ruby. Ilya looked at Ruby with some heartache. Ilya, you must avenge me. Ruby looked like she could not take it anymore, and her voice began to tremble. Please let me deal with my sister, Ilya-sama. As Sapphire spoke, a string appeared from her body and wrapped around Ruby, dragging her away. Wait, little blue. When she was being pushed away by Sapphire, Ruby regained her energetic voice. As expected, she's pretending again. Ilya was helpless. By the way, what did Wuming do again? Rin Enbin asked curiously after hearing young Gil's words. You'll know when you go out. Young Gil took another sip of red wine elegantly. Ilya and the others looked at each other, then stood up one after another and walked outside. Big Brother listened to Gil Kuinyor, Ilya said as she pushed the door open, but the moment she opened the door, Ilya's voice stopped abruptly. As if she was stunned by the scene before her, Ilya was stunned. Of course, the others were the same. Wuming, who was standing in the snow, turned his head and smiled. What, have you all finished eating? Chapter 279. Everyone was stunned. Of course, it wasn't because Wuming had suddenly become so handsome. Instead, it was because of their surroundings. The mansion was still the familiar mansion. The sky was still the familiar sky. The city outside was still the same city. However, Big Brother, what's going on? Why is it snowing all of a sudden? Ilya was a little excited. That's right. The mansion was still the familiar mansion. The sky was still the familiar sky. The city outside was still the same city. Everything that Ilya and the others saw was covered in a layer of snow. In short, it was snowing. Is this what Gilgamesh meant when he said it was very interesting? Although I don't know how you made it snow in the summer, why did you suddenly do it? Rin Tasaka walked to the snowy ground in the courtyard. He asked Wuming while enjoying the coldness brought about by the snowflakes. Everyone walked to the courtyard as well. Through the temperature and material structure, this is indeed snow. Bazit analyzed seriously. Amazing. Big brother, it's really snow. Ilya started running in the courtyard. She was enjoying the fun that could only be enjoyed in winter. Mayu also reached out her hand in nostalgia. She felt the coolness brought about by the snowflakes. I didn't do anything to the weather. Wuming waved his hand innocently. Isn't it Big Brother who did it? Little Black asked in confusion. Everyone looked at Wuming in confusion. We've already arrived in a parallel world. Everyone in the house exclaimed. Only Mayu, who had more or less guessed it, and young Gil, who already knew about it, didn't make a fuss. Hey, don't be so surprised. Aren't you all prepared to head to a parallel world? Wuming covered his ears helplessly. But after sleeping for a night, we arrived in a parallel world. It's not shocking at all. Little Black had a look of regret. Yeah, shouldn't transmigrating to a parallel world be very spectacular? Transmigrating to a parallel world just like that is quite boring. Ilya agreed. Traveling through parallel worlds is an ability comparable to magic. I originally wanted to observe it carefully, but it's a pity. Bazit coughed and said with a reddened face. More importantly, we're going to travel to a parallel world. A parallel world. What do you think this is? Do you think we'll arrive at our destination after taking a nap on the train? Rin and Osaka said frantically. You're just a mere monkey. To put it bluntly, you're just throwing a tantrum because you didn't see it, Livia said gracefully. It was as if she wasn't among the group of people who had screamed just now. You upstart. Aren't you the same? At least I'll say it out loud. You, on the other hand, only know how to keep it in your heart and pretend to be elegant. How disgusting. Rin and Osaka also elegantly played with her twin ponytails and began mocking Livia. A mere Japanese monkey pretending to be elegant is even more disgusting. You blonde upstart. Japanese monkeys. Immediately, the two of them began to wrestle with each other like children. Sigh. Ruby sighed helplessly as she watched the two of them wrestle. As expected, giving up on the two of them was the right choice. My Ilya is still the best. She's bullied by me every day and doesn't throw a tantrum. Immediately, Ruby said with a playful tone as if she was taking pleasure in others' misfortune. Mayu-sama is also better than Livia-sama in this aspect. Also, sister, Ilya-sama isn't a toy. Sapphire said and tapped Ruby. That's right. Don't tease me every day, Ruby. Ilya also protested. Really, you guys are really noisy. Wuming said helplessly. Then, Wuming held Mayo's hand and walked to the side. Brother Wuming? Mayu didn't understand why Wuming was holding her hand. Wuming didn't answer Mayo's question, and only looked at Mayu dotingly. This made Mayu blush. Actually, the enemy already appeared last night. When Wuming said this, whether it was Rin Enbin and Livia who were fooling around or Mayu who was being held by Wuming, everyone tensed up. Of course, except for the young Gil. The Yuzong mountain that disappeared last night has reappeared. Wasn't it done by the Magic Association or the Holy Church? Ilya asked. The Magic Association wouldn't use a method to repair the Yuzong mountain in one night. It's not worth it. As for the Holy Church, they're the same as the Magic Association. Rin Enbin shook his head. That's right. Also, if my senses aren't wrong, the Yuzong mountain's reappearance is due to displacement magic. Wuming held Mayo's hand and said to everyone, "Are you talking about the Ainsworth family?" Livia asked solemnly. "Most likely." Wuming nodded. Feeling the tension from Mayo's body, Wuming gently held the back of Mayo's hand. "Don't worry, Mayu. This time, I'll take care of Ainsworth once and for all," Wuming said with incomparable confidence. "Okay, I believe in Brother Wuming." Mayu hugged Wuming's arm, her face filled with warmth. "Ahem," Little Black coughed. "Ah." Mayu hurriedly let go of Wuming's arm. "It's time for a meeting. Even Mayu can't be lovey-dovey in front of us," Little Black said sternly. "Yes. Yes." Mayu nodded with a red face. Wuming laughed. "You little girl, you're obviously jealous." However, as if he had gotten the words he wanted, Little Black laughed. "Since Big Brother said so, then I'll hug Big Brother's arm." Heh. Little Black pounced and instantly fell into Wuming's arms. Wuming subconsciously caught Little Black. "Ah. Little Black, how can you do this?" Ilya shouted and hurriedly ran to Wuming's side. "As a girl, how can you be so immature?" As she spoke, Ilya tugged at Little Black's arm that was hugging Wuming. "Hee, Ilya is jealous, right? Do you want to do it together with me?" Little Black rolled his eyes and said sneakily. "Huh. That." Ilya was slightly hesitant and stunned. Seeing the hesitant Ilya, Little Black felt as if he had caught something that could be used against her. As expected, Ilya is jealous. "Ah. I'm not. Anyway, let go of Big Brother." Ilya started tugging again with a red face. That Ilya." Little Black let go of Big Brother first. Mayu sat beside Wuming and said shyly, "Since it's like this, then let's hug Big Brother together." Little Black decided to just go with the flow. What a sinful man. Bazette shook his head. "Lolicon." Rin and Osaka and Luia said in disdain. "This king is happy to see this side of teacher." Young Gil pretended to be mature as he looked at Wuming. Wuming's face was filled with helplessness. "All right, let's stop when it's appropriate." Wuming raised his hand and instantly slammed it down. Bam. Chapter 280. Wuming raised his hand and slashed down. The hand blade that landed consecutively hit young Jill, Ilya, and Little Black's heads. Ugh. Ilya held her head and yelled. "It hurts." "Big Brother, what are you doing?" Little Black protested. "You guys are already considered light." Wuming pointed at young Gil. Ilya and Little Black turned around and saw that young Gil had fainted on the spot. Smoke was rising from his head. Then why is Mayu fine?" Little Black saw that his attack had failed and quickly changed the target. Mayu was shocked. "Mayu is very obedient, unlike you and Ilya." As he said that, Wuming patted Mayu's head. Mayu cooperatively rubbed her head against his. Little Black and Ilya stared at Wuming and Mayu with puffed-up cheeks. Seeing Ilya and Little Black's reaction, Wuming quickly patted their heads and apologized. "All right, it's my fault. I'll treat you guys to something later as an apology. Please forgive me." "That's more like it." I say, it's about time to continue the topic." Rin Enbin held his forehead helplessly. "That's right. Jokes are enough. After all, we still have serious matters to attend to." Lu Weya nodded. Wuming patted Ilya and Little Black's heads again, and gestured for them to return to their seats. Knowing that it was time to be serious, the two of them returned to their seats. As for Mayu, she naturally continued to sit beside Wuming. "Last night, I purposely went to the new Yuanzhong mountain to investigate." As he spoke, Wuming began to recall. Wuming cast a few concealment tactics on himself and quietly arrived at the Yuanzhong mountain. As expected, part of the ley lines have been replaced. Wuming crouched on the ground with one hand on the ground and examined the ley lines of the Yuanzhong mountain. Wuming stood up and looked in the direction of the entrance. Mayu had once told Wuming that when she first came to this world, she had walked out of the big hole. In this way, through counter-evidence, the enemy should have appeared in the big hole in the Yuanzhong mountain. With that said, Wuming walked towards the entrance of the large hole. Wuming stopped when he was about to approach. "To be safe, let's use this," Wuming said as he reached his hand into the golden ripples and took out a card. It depicted a person wearing a skull mask and holding a curved dagger. This was the Assassin class card. Class card Assassin. Install Dream Summon. In an instant, Wu Ming's mana wrapped around the class card. Then, the class card melted and turned into a ball of mana that wrapped around Wu Ming. After the mana calmed down, Wu Ming appeared in a black robe. The hooded black robe wrapped tightly around Wu Ming. Only his face was exposed. Wu Ming wore a skull mask that could only cover his eyes. In addition to his expressionless face, anyone would think that he was an emotionless killer. As expected, it's the cursed wrist again. With that said, Wu Ming revealed an arm that was hidden under the cloak. The arm was wrapped in bandages and no skin could be seen. However, it was no different from Wu Ming's normal arm, except for an extra layer of bandages. At this moment, the arm wrapped in bandages was emitting wisps of black gas that spread towards Wu Ming's body. The arm of the demon god? No wonder Shinji Madu was deranged. Even without the side effects of the card, ordinary people would be corroded by this arm. To think that he could still maintain a little bit of self-awareness. Wu Ming felt the evil energy from his arm, as if it could not be suppressed, and was about to corrode Wu Ming. However, since it's just a mere power, you should calm down. With that said, wisps of lightning burst out from Wu Ming's body. Wu Ming's bandaged arm seemed to be trembling. The black gas was retracted and it calmed down. Wu Ming retracted his arm under his robe, and disappeared from where he stood in a flash. Inside the Yuanzhong mountain, 2 females appeared here. The one on the left spoke first. This should be the Yuanzhong mountain of the other world. She was dressed strangely. Her lower body was covered in golden armor, and her upper body was only covered by clothes that covered her chest. There were red patterns on her abdomen and waist and golden armor on her arms. Her hair was tied into 2 thin ponytails with a decorative horn embedded on one side of the ponytails. Coupled with her cold eyes, she had the aura of a queen. This woman was none other than Angelica Ainsworth, the one who used the Gilgamesh card. Really, it's just a holy grail. Why would the 2 of us need to make a move? Isn't this too much of a fuss? The one on the right spoke. She had red hair that was tied into 2 ponytails. She wore tattered fur clothes that covered her abdomen. Her lower body was covered in fur, and her legs were covered with fur boots that looked like long boots. Her golden eyes were filled with raging madness, accompanied by a wide smile, which made people feel terrified. However, the most terrifying thing was her right hand. Her huge right hand was as thick as a small car, and she was holding a hammer that was filled with lightning. Don't be careless, Beatrice Frauerchad. Although Hyunryong was defeated by Lord Julian, he was absorbed by the Holy Grail that crossed over here. There's no guarantee that he won't come back to life. Don't forget, when you used the Hercules card, you were killed by him. If Lord Julian didn't save you, you wouldn't be standing here. After listening to Angelica's words, the girl named Beatrice was a little scared. At that time, the berserker who came with Atlas was Beatrice. For some unknown reason, Beatrice, who used the berserker class card, completely went berserk, and her appearance became the same as the original berserker. When Wu Ming invaded her inner world, Beatrice had a mental breakdown because of Wu Ming. She directly contacted the dream summoning, and turned into a puppet and disappeared. Although that's the case, you're not dead. Compared to the others, you're easier to control. This is why Lord Julian replaced you, Angelica said coldly. Yes, I know. Beatrice pretended to say helplessly, but she still looked quite arrogant. However, Angelica wouldn't say anything to Beatrice. As a puppet, all she needed to do was to obey her master's orders and nothing else was required. Let's go. Lord Mayu should be here. Let's complete the mission as soon as possible. What should I say? Knowing that I'm likely to be here, Julian only sent 2 people. A voice came from the void. Who is it? That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.